All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. It is Thursday, May 15th. Last 2 days, I was early. Today, I'm on time. Can't really say those buy puts on AK Media jokes anymore, so we are on time, baby. And we've got a lot of headlines to get into. We do have some earnings today after the bell. We've got Applied Materials, Kava, Take-Two Interactive, QUBT, and Kohler. So not the biggest companies in the world. We did have Walmart, Alibaba, and John Deere in the morning, but we do have some companies that we'll be looking at. But we got a bunch of things that have happened since the market opened that are dictating equity markets currently right now. Relatively flat day across the board. We do have some V-shaped recoveries, to be honest. So Robinhood gap down all the way to 57, now basically back at 60. I think at one point it was at 60.50. Tesla was at 338. Now it's at 342. Palantir right here at 127. That was at 126. Now it's back at 127. Opened at 130 in the day. And then NVIDIA did get to 136.30. So we broke through 136 again today. Right now we're here at 134.2. Looks like we're going to close around that 133.50 to 134 range. Nothing too crazy outside of the rest of the market. The S&P 500 right here, basically flat on the day. I mean, it's up 0.27%. At one point, we did get to 591, which was nice to see. Then it came right back down. It was at 587 today, at 589. Not too bad. It looks like it's going to be a green day for the S&P 500. The big name that's moving right now is Meta, outside of United Healthcare, which we'll talk about, and Coinbase, which has some pretty ugly headlines that we'll talk about as well. But Meta down 2.4% right here. Why is Meta down? The Wall Street Journal just reported that Meta is delaying the rollout of their flagship AI model. Meta's Behemoth was internally slated for an April release. That was the name of the model. And Meta's rollout of the flagship AI model is delayed to fall or later. I think this is kind of a nothing burger, quite frankly. I mean, they're probably delaying it just to be able to make it better, make sure they have all the computational infrastructure to deploy that model out into the real world. So I really don't think this is that big of a deal. If you were waiting for a Meta dip, I wouldn't say down 2.4% is a dip, but I mean, it's definitely a kind of dumb reason to, especially because their AI model was not going to impact their earnings, not impacting the free cash flow, nothing about the stock, right? It's just more progression in terms of their AI vision. But yeah, Meta's moving down 2.4% based on that headline currently right now. So that's what we got in the context of Meta. Now, United Healthcare, let me know if you bought the dip on this one. I did not buy the dip. Instead, I bought 25 shares of Hoodie instead at, I think, 59.32. Could have bought 5 shares of United Healthcare, decided to buy some Hood instead. So that is one move I made today. Nothing too crazy outside of that. But UNH getting a little bit of a recovery. It was at 249, or it hit actually, wow, it hit 240, 248-ish. And now it's at 273. 248.88 was low. 276.65 was the high of the day. Now it's at 273. Not really a V shape. Still down 11% on the day. Still down about $230 billion in market cap. But if you did buy the dip, let me know. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to buy this dip. I just think that there's a lot of headwinds in regards to bad headlines coming up. And maybe that is already factored in at this point. I would imagine it's factored in, being down 50%, but maybe it's not, right? And so from that perspective, I think one thing that I looked at, and I could be potentially wrong on this stat, but I think it's correct. 84% of United Healthcare's revenue is from their Medicare Advantage program. And that is what the Wall Street Journal was accusing them yesterday of, in terms of the DOJ investigating based on fraud within the patients in that program. That's 84% of revenues. I mean, that's not the most exciting thing in the world if you are a shareholder of United Healthcare. So from that perspective, I think it's a dip buy, but only if you have a time horizon that's reasonable enough to meaningfully wait and allow this to have a recovery, given there are some bad headlines on the way. Now, one thing that's important to understand right here, a lot of people have been asking, hey, is this Meta at 88? And I just don't think it's Meta at 88. So this person writes right here, UNH has a return on equity of 25%, 400,000 employees, more than 400 billion in revenue, and 15% long-term EPS growth, trading at 10 times forward earnings based on the dip today. Is it Meta in 2022? And my answer is no. It's hard to be Meta at 88 when UNH isn't a tech company, A. And B, they can't just lay off 15,000 out of those 400,000 employees and explode margins. Even if they laid off 40,000 of those 400,000 employees, that wouldn't increase their margins the way Meta did back when it was 88. I think it's probably undervalued, but I don't think it's Meta. The other thing is they do about $4 billion in profit off of $400 billion in revenue. So again, not really Meta. But from that perspective, it's probably cheap. It's just not the most exciting if you don't want to deal with some of the headlines. United Health right there down about 11.07%. Palantir right here, 128.35, and then NVIDIA 134.73 on the day. Where was HIMS? HIMS was also moving on the day. HIMS is down about 5%. It was down 11%. So you got a bit of a recovery here, 58.16 on HIMS. And on top of that, Rocket Lab had a great day, dude. 24.91. Look at that. Up 3.25%. I told you guys a while ago what my thesis is on Rocket Lab. I'm going to play a 6-second clip just to reiterate why I own this stock. This is Sir Peter Beck explaining the Rocket Lab thesis.
When I'm having a real bad day, I just go down and stroke the rocket. Not inappropriately.
Silly sounds it.
That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need. I mean, that's all I needed to really invest in Rocket Lab. So there we go. $25, not bad, or basically close to $25 on Rocket Lab. And that one's getting some nice momentum. Now, we do have some other updates right here in terms of the macro. Let's take a look at a couple of these things that are going on, which I think were pretty interesting in regards to Trump and Saudi Arabia. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This right here is the Qatar government showing Trump the vision they have of what the country will look like. There's Jensen right there in the back, but it's basically them showing what the world should look like in Qatar and in the overall Middle East if they were to invest in AI and data centers. And basically, as you can see right there, I mean, it's a pretty hell of a vision, right? You've got all these different campuses, you've got all these different data centers they're building. They want to completely reindustrialize and modernize the nation, modernize the entire Middle East. That's going to be a world in which Jensen, Sam Altman, et cetera, all these guys play a big role. So you have Trump with a lot of meetings today in the Qatar government trying to be able to understand exactly how they're going to get into this world when it comes to reindustrializing for the AI world, and also what it means in the context of the investments that are going to be needed to make that happen. Now, as a result of that, you also had a lot of love shown to Trump across the region. This is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, lit up with the American flag to commemorate Trump coming into the Middle East. I mean, he's getting a lot of love, dude. He is getting a lot of love in the Middle East right now, being very, very diplomatic right here in the Middle East and being able to essentially get a lot of money to come back into the United States from the Middle East that obviously wants to expand and invest as well. Another thing that's pretty bullish for NVIDIA, outside of NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang literally being with Qatari officials and Trump and looking at all the money that he's going to make by being able to sell these chips, you have ChatGPT, Bloomberg reported today, now has more monthly active users than Wikipedia. This is getting crazy, bro. This is getting pretty crazy. I know some of you guys saw that Dumb Money podcast yesterday, and you were asking me my thoughts on Chris Camillo investing in OpenAI. This is his thesis right here. If you listen to the podcast, this is the thesis. He doesn't love the valuation. Quite frankly, he doesn't care about the valuation. He just thinks that, wait a second, if ChatGPT is going to be synonymous with AI, then they're going to win. And I think a lot of us, I do agree with Chris's thesis right here that a lot of us are in a bubble. And like, I use Grok, I'll play with Meta's AI, you know, I'll look at all these different LLMs, but the vast majority of people, they don't know what Grok is. You know, like they don't know what a Claude Sonnet is. They did ChatGPT. That's it. ChatGPT is the #1 app on the App Store and has been the #1 app on the App Store for the past 5 months. By the way, Robinhood is back in the top 200 of the App Store. Yesterday it was at 179. Currently, right now, it's at 194. Coinbase is not at all in the top 200 in the App Store. So you are seeing potentially more demand from retail investors coming into the stock market again, with Robinhood getting into those top 200. But ChatGPT is #1. And that's bullish NVIDIA. That's really bullish NVIDIA. The more people using ChatGPT, the more people engaging with reasoning models, the more demand there will be for compute. And as a result, that is pretty bullish for NVIDIA right here today. NVIDIA 134.33. Amit, what happened to DeepSeek? Remember, DeepSeek did not just disappear. They ushered in kind of a new way of understanding inference training, but they, with the reasoning model, they accelerated this. You know, Jensen's response for the past couple months has been 1,000x more compute that is going to be needed to actually be able to give you correct search queries or correct answers to those queries. So when you ask a question and you wanted to do a reasoning type of thinking or a reasoning model to be able to do the thinking in order to get the result, it's not just going to be amalgamating the data inside of the LLM and then giving you a response. It's going to be reasoning with itself, which just means you need more chips. So DeepSeek has always been bullish for NVIDIA, even if the market decided that it was worth a 20% decline. And as a result, the market seems to not care too much about that anymore. 134.36 right here on NVIDIA, down about 0.72% on the day. Take a look at this stat as well. United Healthcare was 8.7% of the Dow Jones Industrial Average in the United States. Today, it is now 4.5% based on the decline that it's had over the past 2 months. The #1 stock inside of the Dow Jones is now Goldman Sachs, and then Microsoft, Home Depot, Visa, Sherwin-Williams, etc. But United Healthcare is at #7 here at 4.5. It used to be #1. and its weighting has obviously declined. Now, there are some rumors out there that United Healthcare might be at risk of losing its potential spot in the Dow Jones based on how bad this is all going. I think that would be kind of crazy if that happens, and that could really be a headline that actually gets it to bottom versus what we're seeing today. But that would obviously not be a bullish thing if they lost their spot in the Dow Jones. I don't think that's going to happen, but it really depends on if the investigation concludes that they did engage in some hard fraud. Coinbase, what's going on with Coinbase? So Coinbase, not only did they get into the S&P 500 a couple of days ago, which got them up 20%, this morning it was announced that Coinbase got hacked, and there's a lot of emails, addresses, and personal information that people were able to get compromised for. They're asking for a $20 million Bitcoin ransom. That's what the hackers are wanting. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong said, we are not going to pay that ransom, and they're working to investigate who these people are. Apparently, a pretty nasty headline today also suggested that Coinbase misrepresented their numbers to the SEC as they've been a public company over the past couple of years. Now, this is not a good thing, because to get into the S&P 500, all your stuff has to be legit. And for your stuff to be legit, in order for the S&P 500 to actually think you are a real company, you can't be lying about your numbers. The SEC now is reportedly investigating whether Coinbase misstated its user numbers. That headline, along with the headline that, they got hacked today, just not good for the stock. Coinbase right here down 7.4%. And that one taking a bit of a beating, but it is up, I still think 15% for the week. So still a good week, even if it's down 7% currently right now. Rocket Lab, there you go. 25 on Rocket Lab. 25 on Rocket Lab. A little bit of a delayed reaction on this one since earnings. I thought they had a good earnings. It wasn't like a phenomenal earnings, but it was not an earnings that I think warranted going down 15%. Look at her go. 25.13, up 4% on the day. So this one being a big mover as we get into the market close. Are they going to get kicked out and bring in Hood? I don't think they're going to get kicked out unless they legitimately lied heavily around their user numbers. And Brian Armstrong is too good of a CEO and too respectable of a founder, in my opinion, to actually be lying. So it's a bad headline. If there is any misstating of user numbers, I think it was kind of something that got lost in translation versus them trying to have a actual architected way to falsely show their numbers. So I would assume that's not happening right now. But if it is, that's not good. I don't think they get kicked out because of that. I do think Hood will eventually get in, but I don't think they're going to get replaced for Coinbase anytime soon. Robinhood right here, 60.79, getting a nice green candle as we get into the close as well. We got about 2 minutes left, and then we will get into earnings. SoFi right here, 13.59, Palantir 128, NVIDIA 134.71. We do have a couple other pieces of macro data that we'll look at along with earnings. The big data for today was that CPI came in at 2.3, or PPI came in at 2.4 versus 2.5 expected, which was a very good thing. On top of that, we had negative monthly core PPI for the first time since 2020. That was against the 0.4% positive expectations. It is time for Powell to cut rates. And I don't know when he's going to do it, but I think all of us realize that it is probably time to make this happen. Okay, let's do a pump or dump on Kava. What do you guys think? Let me know if you guys own any of those stocks that we have earnings today. Kava is, I think, one of the main ones. There's a Kava that just opened up near my house, and I have not gone to them yet, so I need to eventually do that. But yeah, I've not checked out Kava. Kava right here is down about 0.10% on the day. I do know this stock was at 150 at one point. So it was at, where was it? It was, 148 in February. It came all the way back down to 67, now at 99. It has always been an expensive stock. If you just take their same store sales and divide it by the number of sales, then look at their market cap and look at how much each store is worth. Each store was 53 million at one point, which probably wasn't the case, or probably shouldn't have been the case. But Kava right here is one of those names that we have earnings for today. And then Applied Materials, that's another big one as well in the semiconductor space, AMAT. So we'll be looking at a bunch of those names. And then Take-Two, that is correct me if I'm wrong, gaming company. They're the ones making Grand Theft Auto. So their earnings will be out today after the bell as well. And yes, we'll look at Kohler as well. So those are kind of the four main companies we'll be looking at. We'll have Steve on in about 30 minutes and get his thoughts on the market as well. All right, here we go. Thursday, May 4 p.m. Thank you for being here. The stock market is now closed. All right, here we go. Markets are closed for the day. Let's see how everything ended out, and then we will get into these companies. Robinhood, 60.68, down about 1.16%. Tessie, 342.75, that's down about 1.42% of the day. NVIDIA, 134.85, that's down about 0.35%. Again, NVIDIA basically flat on the day. Palantir down 1.627. Palantir still holding above 125, and more importantly, holding the triple digits. Rocket Lab, did we get the $25 close? Wow, we got a $25 close. 25.24, up 4.6% on the day. I love it. Rocket Lab right here, up about 5%, breaking above 25. It hasn't been at 25 since February, so it's been a while since it got here. At one point, it was at 28, 29. I think it touched like 32 back in early February. But Rocket Lab right here, 25.22. It did fall to 15 after earnings for Q4 back in February. PayPal right here, 71.31. That's down about 1.8%. SoFi, 13.60. That's down 3.7% of the day. Amazon, 204, down 2.5. Meta was down 2.5 based on the delay of their model. SLG, 58. That's at 1.3%. Google basically flat on the day, down 0.69. Microsoft was up 452. Grab actually held above 5. Usually on a day like this, Grab would completely let go of all the gains they had yesterday. And although it's down 4% of the day, it's holding above 5, which is very nice. The more updated 13Fs and 13Gs I see, the more I see institutions are continuing to increase their position on Grab. 83% institutional holdings. So that stock holding above 5, not too bad on the day. AMD 114, that was down about 2.4%. Roblox 1.6%, breaking above 80. Coinbase again down 7%. Had a bunch of bad headlines. SMCI down 2.38%. And then CoreWeave, the CoreWeave CEO was on CNBC today. We'll listen to him a little bit later. I actually really like the CEO, and his explanation of the business model I think made a lot of sense to me, even if you might not love the valuation. But CoreWeave right here down about 2.1% after a 4x growth in their AI revenues from their first earnings that they reported yesterday. Robinhood right here, 60.88 on the day. All right, let's get into earnings. We are going to switch to Webull to get some of these earning results and see what they look like. Again, we got Kava, AMAT, Take-Two, Color, and QUBT. That is a quantum name that we are going to be looking at in the context of earnings. I don't think we have any results yet. So Color is moving a little bit after hours, up about 2%. Again, I will switch over to results as soon as we see them, but as of now, nothing too crazy. United Healthcare did end the day down 11%, which again, if you bought the dip 249, 250, you've done well, at least intraday. But the stock's still down 11%. Someone says, Amit, I watched your debate. Agreed. You guys got robbed. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. I shared my debate that I had in 2016 with Team Denmark in the finals of the Slovenian tournament. I'm happy some of you guys watched it. We lost on a 3-2 decision, dude. We got robbed. We got robbed. I'm happy some of you guys agree. Applied Materials down 2%. All right, let's see if we got some numbers. Applied Materials down 2%. Let's see if we can get those numbers. All right, they beat by 3% on EPS, 239 versus 231. They missed on revenue very slightly by 7.1 versus 7.12. Very, very, very small miss that they had on revenues, but a beat on EPS. EPS is up 14% year over year. Revenue is up 7% year over year. This is kind of like a nothing burger. Again, it is another company that's beating on EPS, missing on revenue, which to me is just signaling that there's some level of margin enhancements across the entire market. That is, I guess, just something to be honest. But Applied Materials right there. Those are the results. This company is a $141 billion company, so it's not a small company. Down about 2% right here after hours, has a dividend of about 1.05%. We don't talk about it much in the semiconductor space, but they are still a large company. Is Rocket Lab still mooning after hours? Wow, Rocket Lab, dude. 25.43. That's not slowing down. I don't think there was any major headline outside of the Varda mission that was talked about yesterday. So this might be a little bit just more technical, but Rocket Lab right here, 25.40 currently after hours. Kava right here is up about 1%. We don't have their numbers yet. Applied Materials now down 3%. That one's getting a bit hit. Color is up 2%. Don't have their numbers yet. QUBT is flat. And then Take-Two, makers of Grand Theft Auto, are also flat. Let me see if we have Take-Two numbers. I don't think we have them yet, but we should be getting them soon. The street on Take-Two wants negative 5 cents a share and $1.5 billion in revenue. And then Kava, the street wants 14 cents a share and $327 million in revenue. Matt Money interviewed Peter Beck. Yeah, that did happen. Let me share that link right here. Matt Money, friend of the channel, who introduced me to Rocket Lab, interviewed Sir Peter Beck yesterday. It was an hour-long interview, great interview. So I'll link that right here, and everyone can go check it out when they have some time. But him and the Rocket Lab crew, Rocket Lab Weekly crew, got to interview Mr. Sir Peter Beck. All right, Take-Two's down. Take-Two's down 5%. There she goes. Take-Two is down. Let's see if we can get some of these numbers. I don't have them yet, but it looks not pretty based on the initial reaction. Again, the Grand Theft Auto thing being delayed, Grand Theft Auto 6 being delayed, definitely got a lot of people upset as well. But I mean, you know, they probably want to get the game to be as right as they can. Here's Applied Materials, and then we will get Take-Two in a little bit as well.
The stock down about a couple percent.
Yeah, it's a mixed report, John, and this is a semiconductor equipment maker. So for EPS, earnings per share adjusted $2.39. That was a 8-cent beat on revenue of $7.1 billion. So ever so slightly a miss for their Q2 quarter. In terms of semiconductor revenue, that came in also a little bit lower. So that could be contributing to the drop now, down 2%. Semi revenue is $5.26 billion, so slightly less. In terms of non-GAAP gross margins for the second quarter, slightly better. If we're talking about guidance, this company usually only guides one quarter ahead. The EPS 235 is higher than what the street anticipated. Revenues, though, pretty much in line. What I'm seeing in this presser right now from the CFO, there is an interesting line. We quote, "We have not seen significant changes to customer demand and are well equipped to navigate evolving conditions with our robust global supply chain." So again, many companies, CoreWeave yesterday, Cisco, and now Applied Materials just in the last 24 hours, all saying they haven't seen any changes in customer demand. Back over to you.
All right, Christina, thank you. Adam Christopher.
Look, that's important. I mean, these semiconductor companies saying that we have plenty of demand, very bullish for NVIDIA, CoreWeave, Nebius, all those companies, but also just the AI landscape, and that AI trade necessarily doesn't have to be over, as some of the analysts have been suggesting. QUBT, we got those earnings. That's a quantum name. They're down 1.56%. Their earnings, they beat by 257%. The street thought they would lose 7 cents a share. They came in with 11 cents. The street thought they would have 100,000 in revenue. They brought in 39,000 in revenue, so they missed by about 60%. This is a company that's worth 1.3 billion, doing 39,000 in revenue. So it's a little expensive, to say the least. But most people are betting on the future of quantum. EPS is up 238% year over year, and revenues are up 43% year over year. Qubit right here down about 0.97% currently after hours. So a lot of you guys are laughing. Dude, that's just how the quantum names are, right? The valuations are pretty up there, but ultimately you're betting on the future of quantum. Robinhood after hours is up 1%. I don't see any news. I don't know why it's going up 1%. Let me see if there's anything here. Did Vlad buy another Canadian company or something? No, I don't see anything. Maybe there's some news coming in a bit and the street already knows about it. Robinhood doesn't really tend to move after hours, so that is a little weird, but it is getting some demand right there, up 0.94% currently after hours. Rocket Lab still moving as well, 25.36 after hours. NVIDIA also moving a little bit, even Palantir. Kind of everything's green after hours. I don't see any crazy headlines right now, but you do have some green because of Bitcoin. Where's Bitcoin today? Bitcoin, by the way, BlackRock, or not BlackRock, Bitcoin right here, 103.1. The Saudis disclosed today that they bought a lot of the BlackRock IBIT Bitcoin fund. They bought MicroStrategy. I believe they bought 400. Do I have it right here? They bought 25,000 shares of MicroStrategy, and they bought about $400 million of BlackRock, of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. So that's and this is the Saudi Central Bank. This is the Saudi Central Bank. So the Saudi Central Bank, they disclosed today, they have 25,656 shares of MicroStrategy and about 400 million worth of the BlackRock IBIT Bitcoin ETF. So, I mean, look, the Saudis definitely pumping some money into that Bitcoin ecosystem. Take-Two Interactive, that is down 2%. Again, I still don't have the numbers for these guys, but the street is reacting to them. Oh, I do. Oh, wow. Okay, so these numbers, not the best. Here we go. Take-Two Interactive, they missed EPS by 42,000%. They lost $28 a share. The street thought they would lose 5 cents a share. I hope that's not a typo. Actually, I do hope that's a typo. But if they're only down 2% after missing EPS by 42,000%, maybe not the worst thing in the world. And then revenue, they beat by 2%. Dude, some of these companies that miss by this much of a margin, I'm pretty sure it's due to like something to do with taxes or accounting rules. I don't think they actually lost $21 a share. maybe they're recognizing some loss on their balance sheet to show that, but because the stock would probably be down a little bit more if they legit missed EPS by 42,000%. That's a bit aggressive. Kava. So that's what we got on take two. Kava is down. Are we down? Kava is down 4. Kava's down 2%. No, 4%, 5%, 5.6, 5.17. Kava is down. I will see if I can get those numbers. And let's see if we have any results on Kava. Again, I've never eaten in Kava, but a lot of people swear it is the best Mediterranean food, right? That's out there in the context of, like, I guess, fast food. Yeah, don't have the Kava results yet, but the street doesn't like whatever they are seeing so far. You guys think overrated, pretty mid? There's one near me, but like I just haven't gone there and tried it. Just go to a Persian restaurant instead. Yeah, that might be the wave. Kava right here down 5.6%. Again, trying to look for these numbers and see what's going on. This stock, I mean, look, in February, it got up there in terms of being expensive, but people kind of justified it by their growth. Where their growth is, I mean, they're growing kind of like a tech company, to be honest, but they do not have tech company margins. Let's see if it's on their website. Oh, we got it. All right, here we go. We got it. Here we go. All right, year-over-year growth on Kava, 30% on Kava, 28.2%. Same store sales growth of 10.8%, 15 net new Kava restaurants they opened in Q1. And they have a margin of 25%, which on a restaurant, you know, it's not 80% gross margins like some tech companies, but 25% on a restaurant is not bad at all. Here's what the CEO says. In spite of economic uncertainty and a challenging weather, Kava's first quarter results demonstrate the continued strength of our category-defining brand. First quarter, same restaurant sales grew 10.8%, including traffic growth of 7.5%. We opened 15 restaurants during the quarter with our entry into Indiana, and we are now in 26 states and the District of Columbia. In addition to these highlights, I'm proud to say that on a trailing 12-month basis, we have now surpassed $1 billion in revenue, a milestone that is a testament to Mediterranean becoming the next large-scale cultural cuisine category that we have established our leadership in. $328 million in revenue, 15 new restaurants, 10% same-store sales growth, average order value of $2.9 million per restaurant. Digital revenue was about 38%. Kava Group net income was $25.7 million, so they are profitable, and free cash flow of about $2.7 million. Street doesn't like it, but these results I don't think are necessarily horrible on first glance. Kava right here down 3%. It was down 5%, so you're getting a little bit of recovery right there. Take Two is still down 2.18. Robinhood still up 0.5%. Rocket Lab still up 25.35 after hours. Colors up 1.3. Don't have their numbers yet, but they're up a little bit. And Qubit was down about 6%. Now it's flat after those numbers. The rest of these names basically down 3 to 4%, but nothing too crazy outside of that. And that's what we got. Oh my God. Hold on. Did Bill Ackman's? Oh, holy. I think we got Bill Ackman's. We got Bill Ackman 13F. All right, here we go, folks. Here we go. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Bill Ackman's 13F. It's time to see what he did. It is time to see what he did. Here we go. Bill Ackman. All right. Pershing Square Capital Management. Let's see what we got with Mr. Bill Ackman. Holy crap. He's out of Nike. He's out of Nike. He got out of Nike. Wow. He's done with the swoosh. Unbelievable. He's out of Nike. We already knew he bought Uber. That was, we already knew that. He said that on Twitter, 30 million shares. That's not an issue. He reduced his Chipotle stake. That's reasonable. He's owned it since 2015. He reduced some of his Google by 16%, but then he also added the other Google. There's different types of Google. So it's I guess a net exit of 5% on his Google position, but he owns a ton of Google, so that's not crazy. He reduced his Hilton position by 40%. That's actually kind of a big deal. I mean, that's almost a 50% reduction in something he's held for a long time. He added 18% to Hertz. We already know about that, but he's out of Nike. Wow. I wonder if he took a loss. I think his average on Nike was 68 to 72. He definitely didn't sell yesterday when Nike kind of gapped up after this China tariff stuff. And even if he did, Nike was at 62, 63. I don't think his average was below 65. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he got his Uber average is around 62, 364, but not his Nike average. So it looks like he took an L. He had 16 million shares on Nike. Yeah, he entered around 70, right? He entered around 70. He switched to call options, Amit. Well, I don't see it on his 13F. It would show it if he switched there. I'll try to see if I can get some more disclosure on that. Nike right here is out of the 13F. Nike's not down after hours, though. You would think Nike would be tanking with Bill Ackman exiting. So maybe you're right. Maybe he did switch the call options, but that's not disclosed right here anywhere. If he didn't switch to calls, then he's out. If he did switch the calls, that's why the stock's not reacting. I'm trying to get the correct. So every news source that I'm looking at is saying that he exited Nike. None of them have disclosed that he is in call options. Bill Ackman doesn't tend to do that anyway. So I kind of doubt. They may be swaps, which might not be disclosed. They could be, but Bill Ackman doesn't really do that on individual stocks. He does that with credit, but he doesn't really do that. Or he does that with like corporate debt, but he doesn't do that with actual equities. That would be weird if he did it. Berkshire's out. Okay, here we go. We got Berkshire. We'll talk more about Bill Ackman in a second, but we also have Berkshire. Let me see. Here we go. Berkshire. It was updated today, May 15th. Here we go. Let's see what Warren Buffett did in Q1. Here we go. Apple, they kept the same. They kept the same on Apple. They didn't move on Apple. Bank of America, they reduced by 7%. That's pretty reasonable. I think all of us knew they were doing that. American Express, they did nothing. Apple, they did nothing. Coca-Cola, they did nothing. Oxy, they added. That's reasonable. We all knew they did that. They added VeriSign. They added more to SiriusXM. I still don't know why Berkshire owns SiriusXM, but they did. They added 113% to Constellation Brands. Isn't that the beer company, the beer and wine? STZ, Constellation Brands? That's up 3% after hours. He's buying alcohol? Okay, so that's 113% there. He reduced 4% in Capital One. He added 10% to Domino's. Okay. Reduced 10% to T-Mobile. Reduced 0.38% to Charter. He added 144% to Pool Corp. He reduced 48% of Liberty Media, but he also added to SiriusXM. They're kind of the same thing, so that's not a big deal. And then he added 10% to HEI.A, Heiko Corporation. So the big moves are that he added to Domino's, he added to Constellation Brands, and he sold a little bit of Bank of America, which is not that crazy. He does not have Citibank. He does not have Nubank. I think he got out of Nubank 2 quarters ago. So he doesn't have Nubank anymore. It's kind of a boring 13F, though, dude. I thought he would do something crazier. So Apple, he has 300 million shares still. Coca-Cola has all of his 400 million shares, not selling that one. Added Constellation Brands, Modelo's, right? Like that's the types of brands they own. And then he added more to Domino's. Interesting, dude. Where's Domino's after hours? Let's see. Where's Domino's after hours? So Constellation Brands right here up 2.74%. And then Domino's is up about 0.5%. Nike's still not really down, though, dude. You would think Ackman leaving the stock, I guess the Nike shareholders didn't care if he entered or if he left. And they're kind of being like, okay, cool, he's out. We don't care. Because you would think there would be a little bit more of a reaction, right? But no. They own Corona as well. Okay, so Modelo and Corona. Why is Warren Buffett at how many shares did he add of? He added of Constellation, he added 6 million shares. He has a 2.2 billion stake. He has a total of 12 million, a little bit more than 6 million shares. 12.09 million shares he has in Constellation Brands. He exited Nubank. Yeah, he exited a couple quarters ago. He's not in Nubank. Or if I'm wrong that he exited a couple quarters ago and you guys are surprised that he exited Nubank, that means that, yeah, he exited Nubank this quarter. I thought he exited a couple quarters ago. If I'm wrong about that and you guys don't see it on the 13F, which I don't see it on the 13F, that means he is not in Nubank anymore as per this quarter, which might be affecting Nubank stock. Nubank after hours is down about 0.5%. Citibank, it looks like he exited as well in Q1. So I guess more importantly, it's what he exited versus what he added. But what he added was pizza and beer. I guess now he just needs a football game. And that's it. Sirius XM, Steve and I have a theory. When Steve comes on the show, we'll get him to explain why he why he thinks he bought Sirius XM. We talked because me and Steve were going to buy Sirius XM and follow Buffett into the trade. It was trading at like $3 like a year and a half ago. And we talked through it, but we couldn't really understand the rationale. We think it's an arbitrage play. So Steve can explain it better, but it's been, 2 years and nothing's really happened with that play. Take-Two Interactive down about 2%, and then Kava down about 5%. Let me get Take-Two Interactive's earnings right here, and then we will get more into these 13Fs. We got a lot more coming up. I think the reason Hood is up after hours is because Altimeter, Brad Gerstner, might have added Hoodie. So I haven't checked it. I will confirm in a second while we look at Take-Two earnings. Let's just say Brad Gerstner has liked my posts on Robinhood multiple times on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter. He has liked my posts about Robinhood. And I think he's always been fond of the stock. So if he did buy it, it would not surprise me. Here's Take-Two earnings, and then we'll see what happened with Altimeter.
Includes a $3.5 billion impairment charge for a markdown of some assets. This is not comparable to estimates because they use an adjusted figure here. And then revenues were a beat at $1.58 billion adjusted. Street wanted $1.55 billion. And then the guidance for the full fiscal year, which begins in the quarter we're in right now, slightly lower, or significantly lower rather than expectations. They're looking at $5.9 billion to $6 billion in revenue for the full fiscal year. Street wanted to see $7.82 billion on an adjusted basis. Obviously, this company announced a couple weeks ago the delay of that Grand Theft Auto game, which is putting things a little bit further out to their next fiscal year. We see shares down better than 2.5%, John.
For sure, Steve Kovac, thank you. Meantime, Kava, that's the Mediterranean restaurant phenom. Its earnings are out. Stock's initial move is lower by about 3.5%. Angelica Peebles has those numbers. Angelica.
Hey, John, Kava reporting earnings of 22 cents a share for its fiscal first quarter. Now, we're not comparing that to consensus estimate of 14 cents because the result includes a substantial gain from an income tax benefit, and it's not clear whether analysts factored that in. Now, revenue of $332 million topped the $327 million that Wall Street was looking for, and same-store sales jumped almost 11%. That's slightly ahead of estimates, and traffic rose more than 7%. The Mediterranean restaurant chain opened 15 net new restaurants in the quarter, and they slightly raised its new opening target to between 64 and 68 restaurants for the full year.
Kava down about 3.5% right now. All right, here we go. We got Altimeter. We got Mr. Brad Gerstner and what he did. Here we go. Folks, he added Hoodie. He added Hoodie, $120 million of Hoodie. He's got a little bit more hood than me. 2.42% of the portfolio, 2.85 million shares. And we don't know if this is accurate, but Whale Wisdom right here, which tracks a lot of these hedge fund buys, they're saying his average is around $41 based on how they think, or his average is $45 based on what they're estimating. He bought Hoodie. Little bit of Hoodie. He also bought Baba. These are all new, by the way. These are not positions he added to. These are all new positions. He added ARM Semiconductors, Baba, China, CoreWeave data centers, and Hoodie Finance. Then he also added Sail. What the hell is Sail? S-A-I-L. Sail Point Parent. I don't know what that is, but he added Sail. And then he has some puts on the QQQ, which is probably just hedging his portfolio. Wow. He bought Hoodie. Now we know why Hood's up 1% after hours. Dude, I'm telling you guys, Brad Gerstner, since Robinhood was like $15, he's been liking my random updates on Robinhood. Like just once every month, I'll get a notification. Then finally last month he followed me. And I think he's been looking at this stock, like these guys are humans as well. They look at Twitter, they look at what people are saying. And I think he's been looking at Hood for a while. Dude, it would be awesome to get him on the channel and explain why he bought Hood. But 61 after hours, looks like he finally got in at 45. And he's in Hoodie. So there we go. We got Brad Gerstner. Brad Gerstner is such a smart guy, dude. Such a freaking smart guy. And it is really nice to see him on the board, being able to invest in what I think is, a generational technology company, which is Robinhood. I just got a text message from Triple V. You guys will appreciate this. The unknown man who gives these super chats every single day in the chat. And he says, LOL, I have more Robinhood than Altimeter. So now you guys know why he can afford to give out a $500 super chat and not worry too much. So yeah, there you go. Triple V just texted me. Yeah, and based on the screenshot I'm looking at, he does have more Hood than Altimeter. So dude, some people just made it in life. some people just freaking made it in life. And you got to tip your hat. You got to tip your freaking hat. It's so funny because now you guys are definitely going to think this is Vlad. Obviously, Vlad has more hood than Altimeter, but I can promise you it's not Mr. Vlad Tenev. But there you go. Altimeter has a little bit more hood than me, but not more than Mr. Triple V. Sale point right here is down a little bit after hours. Nubank's down 1.6% off of Buffett selling. Nike's down 0.5% out of Ackman getting out there. I thought that reaction would be worse. Kava down 4%. Take-Two Interactive down 1.95%. Bitcoin 103.3%. And then Robinhood up 0.65%. TSSI, this stock also, I believe, had earnings. They're up 15% right here. So it looks like they had some pretty good earnings. And TSSI is currently up right now. Michael Burry. I think we got Michael Burry. Here we go. Michael Burry, the man that predicted the 2008 collapse. We've got Michael Burry, folks. Let's see what Michael Burry did. Oh, my goodness. It looks like Mr. Michael Burry is bearish. He sold everything. He sold everything except Estee Ladar. He added 100% to Estee Ladar, 200,000 shares at about 66 on Michael Burry. Michael Burry's Scion Asset Management 13F for Q1 2025. Wow, dude, this is interesting. Okay, so Buffett says I'm going to add pizza and beer, and then Michael Burry says I'm going to add makeup. These two guys are kind of, I would imagine, feeling a bit bearish about what's going on right now. Estee Ladar, let's look at that company right now. By the way, for everyone saying I'm pronouncing it wrong in the chat, maybe you guys are pronouncing it wrong. If maybe you have to look yourself in the mirror and think you've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. But Estee Ladar right here, it's up 0.69%. Really not getting any momentum from Michael Burry going all in with his entire fund on this stock, $13.2 million. I think he manages more money, but basically that's the amount he allocated towards this one stock. 200,000 shares. That's quite incredible, dude. So you got Domino's, Constellation Brand, and Estee Ladar that are getting the bid right here. Domino's up a little bit after hours, and then STZ, that's up 3%. That's the only one that's really moving. Michael Burry, dude, he had a lot of BABA, if I'm not wrong. He had a lot of Baidu. He had a lot of other Chinese stocks. He had a couple ETFs in China. He had KWEB, I think, which is the Chinese large cap ETF. He got rid of everything. He got rid of everything for makeup. Elf after hours is flat, and then Ulta after hours, which Buffett did have a stake in, then he sold a couple quarters ago. Ulta is also flat after hours. This is pretty incredible. This is pretty incredible. It's pretty weird, right? I mean, I get that he's bearish, but to sell everything and go into like I think this is almost like a meme type of a portfolio. It's almost like you look at this portfolio and you're like, oh, makeup recession. It's kind of like he's trying to tell the market, hey, we're going to have a recession. And so I'm buying makeup because of, that common theory that women buy more makeup in a recession, which I found out about like 90 days ago. And I could not believe that that was a theory, but apparently that's a theory. And there's actually data to like back up that theory. But there you go. That's what Mr. Burry did. And one of you guys is saying he has 188 million in cash. Yeah, I would imagine he probably has a ton of cash from selling all the Chinese stocks he had. And he's out. He's out of the market. He's out of the market. Stanley Druckenmiller, I don't know if I have that yet. Let me see. So we looked at Buffett. We looked at Burry. We looked at Ackman. Oh, we got Carl Icahn. Here we go. We got Carl Icahn. Let's see what Mr. Carl Icahn did. Here we go. He added 2.76% to CVR Energy. I don't know what the hell CVR Energy is, but he added 2.76% to that. He has 68 million shares. He reduced 21.8% to Southwest Gas. That's an energy company. He has 7 million shares. He added 0.81% to UAN. I don't know what that is either. He added, 89% to Jet freaking Blue. Okay, he's bullish on JetBlue Airlines. And he added 450% to Illumina. The rest of his portfolio is flat. He doesn't have a lot of tech. He's never had a lot of tech. He's kind of a little bit more of an activist investor. 90% add to JetBlue. JetBlue stock after hours, which does have a 20% short float. So JetBlue is, we talk about him squeezing all the time. If JetBlue develops any type of momentum, maybe this one squeezes. JetBlue is up 0.61% after hours. 0.61% after hours. Okay, so Buffett added pizza and beer. Burry added makeup. Ackman got rid of sneakers. And this guy, Icon, added airlines. David Tepper. We got David Tepper. He's next. Here we go. We got David Tepper. Let's see what we got for Mr. Tepper. He was very bullish China about 8 months ago, September. He went on CNBC. He said, buy everything in China. Let's see what he did. Mr. David Tepper. He is selling. He sold 22% of his Alibaba. He sold 18.4% of his Pinduoduo. He sold 3% of his Amazon. He sold 23% of his JD. He added 12.2% of Meta, 6.8% to Google. He has about $315 million in Meta and Google each. Wow, he added 113% to Uber. I mean, Uber at 63 in the beginning of the year got probably a lot of institutional guys excited for that. So he added to Uber. He reduced Vistra, which is a data center play, by 14%. He reduced his China large cap ETF by 15%, FXI. He reduced Microsoft by 47%. That's a bit aggressive. He reduced Lyft by 33%. He reduced KWeb, which again is the China ETF, by 12%. He reduced Oracle by 50%. So the only tech he added was Meta and Google. Everything else he's been starting to sell off in Q1. He added to ET. Steve loves that company. He added to United Healthcare. That one he's definitely holding a bit of a bag on, most likely. He bought Deutsche Bank, 3.7 million shares. He bought Deutsche Bank. He sold 50% of Baidu. He sold 50% of ASML, sold 50% of Qualcomm, added 8% to TSM. That's kind of weird. He's selling some semis for some other semis. Sold 60% of Lam Research, sold 67% of Micron, sold 55% of NVIDIA, sold 34% of Las Vegas Sands, sold 36% of Wynn, sold 26% of BAKE, sold 56% of Chesapeake Energy, and he bought Broadcom and bought Square. There are going to be no Palantirs on these lists, guys. I've been waiting for 3 years to see the hedge fund guys add Palantir. Not a single one of them ever took a shot on Palantir. I think Dan Loeb added Palantir back in like Q3 2021, but like outside of that, none of these guys touch Palantir. So he added Block, he added Broadcom, he added to Taiwan Semi, he added L3 Harris, defense contracting. He added to Meta, he added to Google, and then he sold, not fully, but reduced his positioning in Baba, Pinduoduo, Amazon, JD, Microsoft, Lyft, Oracle, and Baidu, and then Lam Research, Micron, NVIDIA, and then the Chinese large cap ETFs. He also added Uber, 3.2 million shares. He has $233 million in Uber. He manages $5.5 billion currently right now. Okay, so Tepper has had so far the biggest 13F in terms of having the most moves. Let's see if any of these stocks are reacting after hours. NVIDIA is flat. S&P is flat. Uber, I feel like Uber should be up. Uber is up a little bit. I mean, you do have some big guys entering Uber. Nike's still not moving. JetBlue right here up 0.61%. I think on JetBlue, based on what I'm looking at right here, is that Icon might have had call options as well on JetBlue. And as a result, he might have converted those call options into equity, which is why Icon increased his equity positioning in JetBlue by 89%. But that stock right here up about 1% after hours. Ulta flat. Elf is down a little bit. Constellation's up 2%. And then Domino's up about 1% currently right now. Ackman converted Nike shares into in-the-money call options. Okay, I think you're correct because I feel like Nike would be reacting negatively if Ackman actually sold, but it's not. So I just need to find the source for this to confirm. Because I feel like you're correct on this. Nike should be down like 3-4% to see Ackman leave. But if he converted into call options, then he's not really gone, right? Like, I mean, he's in the name. He's just not in the name through stock, which is normal. But he doesn't really do that. That's on it. He said it on his X account. Hold on. Let me go to his Twitter. Okay, let's see. That means he's actually more bullish on Nike if he got call options. I don't see the tweet. I don't see him exactly explaining that he bought call options. Joseph Carlson made a video on Ackman having call options. Okay, well, I don't have any official confirmation. Oh, wait, hold on. So Carlson said, you're going to see a lot of tweets that Ackman sold Nike. He did not. He converted the equity into in-the-money call options. This is what he said in his last press release. He's still invested in bullish on Nike, but options do not show up on the website. Okay, so I'm taking Carlson's word for it. Carlson right here is saying that Ackman already told everybody in his latest press release that he converted the equity into options. That's actually a nothing burger than on Nike. That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. That's why Nike. Yeah, dude, I thought Nike would react more aggressively towards that. Nike not reacting makes also Ackman's not really a day trader, dude. He doesn't buy a stock 5 months ago and then sell out. Like he just doesn't tend to do that. That's not his style. So that was really surprising if he were to take off a $400 million stake in the company after 5 months. Like he tends to be someone who gives it a couple years to marinate. But the fact that he's going into options means that A, he's freeing up capital, right? Because if you're buying the options versus the stock, that is less capital intensive. But B, he's probably really bullish that Nike can get to the strike prices on his options and get well above them, because obviously he decided to go for something that has an expiration versus something that can never expire, which are the shares itself. NVIDIA discloses a 7% stake in CoreWeave. Okay, CoreWeave, that stock right here. Are we moving after hours? That one's up 2%. Now, NVIDIA already had a stake, if I'm not wrong. So I think they just added to their stake. That's not like a brand new 7%. But it looks like that one they continue to add. This is what you guys are saying. Ackman said on X, we have only one investment, Nike 3-year call options, that is directly affected by tariffs, a position that represents 1.5% of our portfolio. Okay, that makes sense. So Ackman and Nike, nothing burger, he's still in. He just doesn't own the actual equity. And then NVIDIA right here, investing in CoreWeave. Let's see if some other 13Fs are out. So we looked at Ackman, we looked at Tepper, we looked at Icon, we looked at Burry. We have Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill and Melinda Gates. This is the Gates Foundation. They did absolutely nothing except reduce Berkshire by 12%. Oh, and they bought West Pharmaceutical Services. Outside of that, they did nothing. They don't own any tech, by the way. If you ever looked at Bill Gates' portfolio, it's Microsoft, Berkshire, and then a bunch of like kind of traditional value plays. You know, nothing too crazy. You got FedEx, Walmart, Caterpillar, Waste Management, UPS, Kraft Heinz, like very, very, very safe, you know, basic companies, dividends, like really nothing that crazy in regards to a full tech portfolio, but they sold off a little bit of their Berkshire by 12%. So Bill Ackman not doing anything too, or no, Bill Gates not doing anything too crazy. Spyglass Capital got a new position in Hood, also 1.3 million shares or 4% of their portfolio. Okay, so Spyglass Capital Management. These guys are in San Francisco. Looks like, let me pull up their fund. They added Hood. Let's go to their new holdings. Yeah, they added Hood. Here we go. Wow. They added Hood as well. Let's see all the funds that added Hood. I'll be able to check right here in a second. And then we'll check for Palantir. They added 1.3 million shares of Hood. FICO, they added 20,000 shares. And then AAON Industrials, they added 620,000 shares. Let's go to Hood right here and see if there's any kind of new funds that are in this play. The main one was Altimeter. That was the main one, right? That was the main one. Outside of that, I'll keep looking, but oh wow, the Saudi Central Bank. Oh, okay. So the Saudi Central Bank added 241 shares of Hood. So thanks to the Saudis adding. I definitely have more shares than the Saudis when it comes to Robinhood. So I have a little bit more than the Saudis. Spyglass Capital added 1.3 million, and then Altimeter, that's the big one, guys. They added 2.8 million for Hood. 2.8 million for Hood. The website I'm doing this on is Whale Wisdom. So Whale Wisdom is the website where you can get the 13Fs and 13Gs. And then Dataroma is the website you can get to see what all the hedge fund guys are doing. So Dataroma is the website for the hedge funds. And then Whale Wisdom is the website for the individual stocks. Weird flex. I'm sorry. I have to flex that I have more shares than the Saudis when it comes to Hood. But the Saudis have a lot more MicroStrategy and Bitcoin than I have. Okay, so we looked at Bill Gates. I still think we have Dan Loeb. We have Dan Loeb. Dan Loeb manages $6.2 billion. Here we go. Let's see what Dan Loeb did. I need the Pelosi's. To be honest, we all need to see what Pelosi's doing. That's the biggest one that we all should care about. That is the one with the most alpha. All right, Dan Loeb of Third Point. What did he do? He added 5.3% to PG&E. He reduced Amazon by 31%. Okay, he added 22% to Live Nation. He added 12% to Telephone and Data Systems, TDS. He reduced Brookfield by 15%, added 11% to Flutter. That's basically gambling or sports betting. He bought KVUE, Kenvue, 8.9 million shares. Wow. He added 275% to Apollo Global Management. That is a private equity firm. So he's probably getting bullish on merger and acquisitions and the M&A environment in general. He reduced 47% of ICE. He reduced 4% of LPLA, added 13% to Capital One. Buffett reduced Capital One, and he reduced 15% to Jacobs. Added 15% to Discover Financials, reduced Microsoft by 47%. So these guys took their profits on big tech, even though, after Q1, they all had good earnings. I mean, Microsoft was dead for all of Q1. So if he had waited till Q2, he would have had a 10% pop on Microsoft. Vistra, he got rid of by 15%. That's a data center play. He added 15.63 to PRMB. He bought Ritchie Bros Auctioneers. What the hell is Ritchie Bros Auctioneers? RBA. Is there a public company for auctioneers? Ritchie Bros. I've never heard of this one. Ritchie Bros Auctioneers. He bought Shark Ninja. There's a couple of you guys that like Shark Ninja. He added 121% to Membership Collective, and then he bought Pinterest. He bought 1 million shares of Pinterest, and that's it. So he took some profits on Microsoft. He bought AT&T. He bought Pinterest. He bought NVIDIA. I missed that. He bought 1.4 million shares of NVIDIA. Yeah, that's a big one. I missed that one. He bought NVIDIA. He bought X, which is United States Steel Corp. He bought heavily Apollo Global Management, added to that, and he sold 31% of his Amazon and about 47% of his Microsoft. Bullish NVIDIA. Definitely nice to see one of these hedge fund guys getting a bit more aggressive for NVIDIA. Stanley Druckenmiller is not out yet. It probably will be out in, I would say, an hour or maybe tomorrow, but we will get Stanley Druckenmiller pretty soon. And we will see what he has to say as well. Dan Loeb, $6.7 billion he manages, and he's adding to NVIDIA, which is nice to see. It is nice to see. All right, after hours, how are some of these stocks moving? Kohler, I didn't look at their earnings, but Kohler stock is down 11%. Okay, this one is a small cap, so definitely, any bad earnings could definitely take it down. It was down 8% during the day, down 11% right now. $420 million market cap. That one is down. JetBlue's up a little bit. The S&P's flat. Uber's up a little bit. Nike's flat. CoreWeave's up 1.4%. And Domino's is up a little bit right now as well, given Buffett added 10% to that position, along with Constellation Brands is also up about 2.2%, given he added to that. UNH is up a little bit right here after hours. Up a little bit here, 1.3% after hours. Do you still like Grab? Yes, I have Grab. We're getting a lot of 13Fs and 13Gs from Grab as well. The biggest one I've seen so far is Toyota has not sold the Grab. They have 220 million shares. And Bailey Gifford added to make their stake worth 50 million shares, about 7% of their portfolio. And then there's a couple other banks across the world that have started initiating positions in Grab. Grab's, again, institutional ownership is well above 80% at this point. So I do think the toots are loading and they kind of know what's going to happen towards the end of the year. I think $7 by the end of the year is not that crazy if they keep executing, but Grab right here up a little bit after hours. United Health, 1.4% currently after hours. Steve just said he can get on around 5:15. Let me text him. 5:15 works. So he'll be about 30 minutes, but he can get on at around 5:15. Okay, so let's go to Dataroma and let's search Palantir and see if there's any fund that added them. You're allowed to search by a ticker symbol, and let's see if any company at all took a stake in Palantir. No, nobody. So as you can see right here, you guys see this, right? Yeah. The only buy is you see this Dan Loeb back in Q3 of 2020. No one's freaking touching Palantir. Let's try Hood and see if any of them took a stake in Hood. Hood. Nope. Nothing since 2023. Okay, so no Palantir, no Hood. Let's try Tesla. We haven't seen any Teslas, right? Dude, people are so afraid of this one. And that's why Ron Barron and Kathy Wood, these are the people that, talk about Tesla, because the other fun guys don't buy them. Okay, we did get something. We got Viking Global Investors. They bought 350,000 shares of Tesla. Dan Loeb sold 100. Oh, I missed that. I missed that. Dan Loeb sold 100% of his Tesla, 500,000 shares. David Katz sold 100% of his shares, but he only had 833 shares. And then Joseph Tarasoff from Green Lane Capital reduced by 2.7%. But Viking Global, this one manages 31 billion. We should probably look at this. So let's look at Viking Global. They added Tessie. They added UBS by 42%, added Schwab by 20%, added Bank of America 30%, added United Health 12.4%. Maybe that's why United Health is up right now. They bought Meta, 1.4 million shares. That's almost $1 billion of Meta. They added Capital One, almost $1 billion of Capital One, 4.5 million shares. They sold 40% of Visa. They added 222% to their NVIDIA. Bullish, $709 million. They added 50% to their Netflix. Netflix has just been a gem all year. 750,000 shares. They added 8% to Boeing, added 36% to Flutter, added 153% to Ross Stores. They bought Sea Limited. That's Southeast Asia. I know that's not Grab, but still, that is the region that investors are bullish on. Carvana, they added 192% to Carvana. They reduced 70% of their JP Morgan. They added 4% to their Amazon. They added 156% to their T-Mobile, reduced 36% to their Philip Morris. They bought Deutsche Bank. They bought McDonald's. They added 6% to HCA Healthcare. They sold 12% of Allstate. They bought Nike, 5.5 million shares. They bought Nike. They reduced DoorDash 62%. They added 57% to Sherwin-Williams, added 178% to GM, reduced 71% of their Microsoft, or reduced 50% of their Progressive. They bought Arthur J. Gallagher. They bought Carnival Cruise. Chris is going to be happy about that one. They bought 12 million shares of Carnival Cruise. My goodness. All right, so we'll get Chris's reaction to that tomorrow. They reduced 6% of American Towers. They bought 343% of their Qualcomm. They added 329% to EQH, Equitable Holdings. And then they bought 350,000 shares of Tesla. Looks like their average price is $259 on Tessie. They also bought Ferrari, 135,000 shares. They sold 70% of their Twilio, and then they sold 100% or 97% of their Li Auto. So I guess they sold some of their Chinese automotive stuff for Tesla. They also reduced 8% of their AppLovin, and they bought Regeneron as well. Okay, so Viking Global, there's a lot of activity here. Obviously, they manage $31 billion. There's, going to be a lot of stuff that they do. But this one had a big set of move. Barclays bought 8.2 million Google shares. Okay, let's search Google in Q1. Let's see what happened with Google, because I haven't been seeing a lot of Google here. But let's see. Okay. Google. NVIDIA's 13F is out. We saw that NVIDIA added more to their CoreWeave. We'll take a look at some of the other stuff. Seth Klarman added 652,000 shares. We had John Armitage at 186,000. And then David Tepper, I guess I missed that when I was looking at it, added 100. Oh, no, we did. We met in Google. We saw that they added 128,000 to Google. So the one that really matters is David Tepper and Seth Klarman. Seth adding 45%, David Tepper adding 6.8%. And then you have a lot of these other funds. I don't see any big names in these funds outside of Bill Ackman selling about 1.2 million shares, but he has a lot of Google, so that's not that big of a deal. But a lot of these other funds taking some profits and selling a bit of their Google. So that's what you got on Googs. Flutter should be up 5% after hours. I mean, Flutter, this stock, now it's up 1%. It was up 5%, but this stock is a big name when it comes to gambling and the sports betting ecosystem. So that one, we're seeing a lot of these guys get a bit more excited about in terms of that industry as well. Let's look at a Grab. Let's see if there's any names that did something on Grab. No, not since Q4. So we do have some names that own it, but nothing so far in terms of the big names. The one big name that owns Grab is Tiger Global. I don't think Tiger disclosed their latest 13F yet. Oh, they did. Here we go. They did. You guys see this? Yeah, they did. So they still have Grab. Do they? They do. They hold their Grab. So they still hold 92 million shares of Grab. Okay, so Tiger Global, 92 million shares of Grab. They still own that. Tiger Global. All right, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, we looked at Nvidia 7% stake in CoreWeave. We already looked at that. So CoreWeave right here after hours, that one is up about 1.69%. Nvidia right here is basically flat after hours currently right now. Okay, Tiger Global, here's what they did. They added 16% to their Microsoft. They left Meta the same. They added 2.7% to Amazon. They manage, by the way, $26 billion. They added 1.91% to Eli Lilly. They added 13% to NVIDIA. $1.1 billion they now own in NVIDIA. They added 16.6% to Taiwan Semi. They added 540% to Viva Systems. They left their Spotify the same. They bought AppLovin. They added 19% to Sherwin-Williams. They bought Zillow. Interesting. Maybe they think the housing market is coming up and rates potentially coming down. So Zillow would see more demand. They added 60% to Reddit. They added 23% to Broadcom. They added 15% to Zscaler. They added 11% to Lam Research. They bought GE Vernova. Okay, not bad. 64% to Coupang. They added 24% to Nubank. There you go. 11 million shares on Nubank they own. And then they reduced 94% of their Uber. That's a little weird, given Uber had, well, it's not too weird because Uber had a nice run in Q1. So if they sold towards March, granted, Uber's at all-time highs right now, but looks like they took some profits on Uber. Again, they bought Zillow, they bought Novo Nordisk, they bought Square, they added 24% to Nubank. But the big one here is that they kept all their Grab. This is one of the biggest funds that has Grab, 92 million shares, and they added more to their NVIDIA as well. A lot of Sherwin-Williams, yeah, a lot of different Sherwin-Williams that some of these firms have been adding as well. Interesting, dude. Very interesting. Lots of different moves we got after hours. I think I said yesterday on the close that we were going to get 13F soon. I didn't know they would all come today after hours, but we got pretty much all of them. I think we're maybe missing one or two, but we got pretty much all of them. A lot of these stocks basically flat after hours, not really making crazy moves. Uber's up a little bit right here. The big one from Buffett is Domino's and Constellation Brands. And then the big one from Burry is Estee Lauder. Now that's up 3%. All right, so now that's reacting. I guess he's kind of in the camp of makeup recession. Let me check SoFi on Data Roma and see if there's any institutions that are getting excited about that one. No, we have nothing on SoFi. We have one lady who reduced her positioning by 16%. Samantha McLemore, Patient Capital Management. She sold off 716,000 shares. She manages 1.9 billion. It's not a small amount of money. She had SoFi in the portfolio. She still has 3.5 million shares. Who is Samantha McLemore? Does anyone know this woman? I feel like I should know her. Never heard of her. She's the managing partner of Patient Capital Management. I have no idea who she is, but she sold to Amazon, Citigroup, and QXO. She added Google. She reduced ET. She reduced Meta. She reduced Baba by 22%. David Tepper, he got rid of a decent amount of China. Now, granted, I don't blame him because in September he said to buy. Everyone buy. Now he's selling. That's kind of what you do, right? But it's not like he's the most bullish on China like he was back in September, which makes sense because China went up a lot. She sold United. She added Coinbase. She bought Carvana. And she sold some of her SoFi. She also added 3% to NVIDIA. She added the cruise lines as well, added 44% to Norwegian today. Tepper's also out of AMD. Is he? Is Tepper out of AMD? I think you're right on that. Let's search AMD. So I don't see it on the 13F, but yes, I think you are correct. No, I see it right here. Yeah, he sold 1.2 million shares of AMD. And then Maverick Capital reduced about 4.1%. But David Tepper, 100% of his AMD, he sold. But he added NVIDIA, which is nice to see for NVIDIA. He added also, like a lot of these guys are adding TSM, Qualcomm, Broadcom, NVIDIA. They're kind of adding all those together. So it's not like they're just bullish on NVIDIA. They're kind of bullish on the entire semi stack. But if you're kind of, bullish NVIDIA, it's not like you have to be bearish at AMD, but it's kind of you're making a bet on which one's going to really benefit from the next generation of chip architecture. And it looks like Tepper is betting on NVIDIA right here. NVIDIA 134.83. basically flat after hours. Mark Mahaney doesn't own stocks. He analyzes them. He is an analyst for Evercore. He doesn't actually manage capital. So he would not have a fund that comes out. Granted, he does have a $8 price target on Grab. So I think his thesis is pretty sound on that. But he likes Uber, he likes Amazon, likes Google. He's a big tech guy, but he doesn't actually manage money. Dude, it's gotta be crazy, right? To be like a one-person fund, or like to be like, let's say you're not Buffett that's managing hundreds of billions, but let's say you're just like, an Ackman who instead of 16 billion, you're managing like even $100 million, right? Like that's kind of crazy, managing $100 million and being responsible to like allocate that capital correctly and make some bets. And, eventually you have to concentrate your bets to be able to get any outsized returns. And then you have to report all of those with the SEC and everyone can see your track record. Like you got to give it up to these guys. It's not easy to do. And they tend to panic a little bit more than retail because they have big money, right? That they're worried about. But it is a ruthless game in terms of allocating capital and managing it and being able to actually show a return every single year. That's why Warren Buffett is tended to be referred to as the GOAT, because he's done it successfully for basically 65 years in a row. If you guys know anything about Ackman's story, he started with $4.5 million. He raised $4.5 million in 1999 from a couple of people he had connections with when he graduated college. And, he took that 4.5 million and grew it to 18 billion. So even if you don't always agree with his picks, he's done a hell of a job managing capital over the past 25 years. Okay, so I think that's what we got with all these. Disclosures. That was a lot of disclosures right here on the day. No activity on HIMS in Q1. Yeah, I don't see anything on HIMS, Hood, Palantir. I mean, these aren't just retail names because they have institutional floats that like own upwards of, I would say, anywhere from 45 to 55% of the stock. But some of these really big guys like the Teppers, the Ackmans, because every single thing they do is analyzed on a very large scale, they tend to not touch these companies. Like imagine if Ackman bought Palantir or Tepper bought Palantir, right? Like first of all, they wouldn't agree with the valuation, so they wouldn't buy it. But they would know that as soon as they buy it, they would have to justify and explain why they're buying it. And they probably just don't want to be associated with it. It's a lot easier to say we're buying Uber than buying Palantir because it's Uber, right? It's just like it's so much more well known. It's understood. If Uber goes down, it's not like you're losing money. A lot of people are losing money. If Palantir goes down, the investing community is going to be like, hey, maybe that's more retail losing money, not institutional investors. No one's going to care. And so a lot of these guys tend to be able to mitigate the public downside they're going to face if their stocks go down by investing in names that are pretty well respected by the public, like a Nike. It's just if Nike doesn't actually have any level of meaningful recovery, then Ackman doesn't get to make good on this concentrated bet that he made. A lot of these guys could have invested in Palantir back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. That's how Cathie Wood made her name with her public fund with ARK, by investing in Tesla when no one wanted it to, and then Tesla 20x'd. But none of them took that risk, and I doubt they're going to take that chance with Palantir at these levels right now. So that's what we got. Moon Money, thank you for the $20 super chat. Thoughts on TQQQ? Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for being here. TQQQ, I don't hate it, but you've got to be pretty damn bullish that we are getting back to all-time highs on the S&P. Otherwise, I wouldn't buy TQQQ. Now, the real reason I wouldn't buy it is because the Qs have already made from the April lows a 25% recovery. That doesn't happen in 1 month, dude. Like, I think all of us kind of are underestimating how insane of a rally we had in April. You don't get the Qs going up 25%, the S&P 500 up 18% in a month. Like when you have a downfall or a downside move in terms of hardcore momentum that creates so much pain in the indices, it takes months to recover. It's just all of us kind of were smart enough to realize that Trump could tweet one thing and reverse this. I guess the hedge funds, didn't think that. But the fact that we've had such an insane recovery, my point is TQQQ already made its move, right? So if you're buying it now, you got to be really confident we're going back to all-time highs, because if not, a lot of the alpha that is generated from the triple leverage on the TQQQ has been generated in the past month. Estee Ladar right here up 6%. There you go. So Michael Burry, his buys are now being disclosed and disseminated to everybody. That one making a move after hours up 5.94% currently right now. Oh, money market funds, dude. We got some data. It's Thursday. Here we go. What do you guys think? Increase or decrease? I'm looking at it for the first time. Increase or decrease? Okay, I have the data. What do you guys think? Increase or decrease on these money market funds? Let me know what you guys think, and then I will put up this data right here. Real quick, Kava and Foot Locker. So Foot Locker, again, did get bought out. That's why they're up 85%. Kava, we looked at their earnings. They're down about 4.28%. And then Take-Two Interactive, that's down about 2.6% after we got their earnings as well. All right, money market funds for the week of May 15th have decreased by $5 billion. Kind of a nothing burger, but it's nice to see a decrease. $5 billion, a drop in the bucket of the $6.94 trillion that are on the sidelines. But we do have a bit of a decrease right here on money market funds. So I guess the really big news, or the really big kind of moves of today, were Buffett with Constellation, Buffett with Domino's, Michael Burry with Estee Lauder, David Tepper with Nvidia and selling China, and then Altimeter with Robinhood. Those were the big moves, right? Those were the big moves. And then Nvidia with CoreWeave. So that one got some love as well. APLD, that stock right here up 1.97%. Did Nvidia buy back into APLD? Let me see. Let me try to get Nvidia's 13F as well and see what they did. Oh, they got back into APLD. They sold this a while ago, right? Did they get back in? Or am I wrong? Here it is. They bought Nebius, CoreWeave, ARM, and Applied Digital. Or did they always have these? I think they had a couple of these. CoreWeave is the new one. They added more to that. I think they had, I don't think these are new positions. I think they had them. And okay, so the new position is WeRide. That's ticker symbol WRD, WeRide. This company, if I'm not wrong, is autonomous driving in China and the UAE. So that makes sense. NVIDIA is going to be probably providing them technology and GPUs for training. Nebius, they've always had. CoreWeave, they added more to it. ARM, I think they've always had ARM. And I think they sold Applied Digital last quarter. But maybe I'm wrong on that. They have 7 million shares of APLD. If they added back in, then that's why APLD is maybe up a little bit after hours. But if they never sold, then that one doesn't really matter. They had WeRide last 13F. Okay, so that's not new either. Yeah, it remains the same. Yeah, it remains the same. Yeah, basically remains the same. There's nothing new here. It didn't look new, actually. CoreWeave, I think they have a little bit more than they had last time, but outside of that, nothing's different. Oh, they sold Sound, and you're right. They sold Sound and Serve. You're right. They sold Sound and Serve last quarter. That makes more sense to me. I remember that. And they added a little bit more to CoreWeave, APLD, and they already had WeRide. Okay, so that's what we got for NVIDIA. And then Bill Ackman, he didn't do anything outside of buy Uber, which we already knew about, and then convert his Nike. He converted his Nike, that's it, into call options, which isn't that big of a deal. Nike right here is basically flat after hours. I guess the biggest one outside of like Altimeter with Hood, which I mean, I personally like that one. I know a lot of you guys that like Hood. That's nice to see. Altimeter, I just like that guy, dude. The way he thinks about technology to me is very future looking, and he understands how to communicate about technology. He was very early on NVIDIA. And I think him taking a position in Hood is him saying, hey, this is a technology company inside of finance, not just like a brokerage meme stock app. And it's really nice to see some legitimacy coming from Ackman, or from Gerstner on Robinhood. But Burry is kind of the actual meme portfolio of the day. Sold everything and went into makeup. That is a really funny one, dude. Really funny one. Citadel brought Grab. I'll see if I can get any disclosure of that from Citadel. Grab does have a lot. There's a lot of. I'll make a list and show it to everyone yesterday. I've been compiling them and I'll just show you guys in one list. But Grab has had a lot of banks add to them, but it's not like the big hedge funds, but it's like the Norwegian Bank and the Citadels of the world, the Toyotas. All these guys have been adding or holding their position, but not any of the kind of celebrity names on Wall Street. But Estee Lauder, that's the one that's interesting, dude. That's the one that's interesting that Burry decided to get into. Selling everything and going into makeup. Selling everything and going into makeup. When is the AK Media 13F coming out? I don't have a 13F 13G. I do not manage the type of capital that these guys manage. It would be fun one day, though, dude. It would be kind of fun to have $100 million and just like, dude, are you allowed to have a hedge fund through Robinhood? Can you manage a hedge fund on Robinhood? Like, I think you have to use like fancy software and shit if you have a hedge fund because everything has to be reported with the SEC. But I would like, could you imagine just having 100 million on Robinhood, just like swiping up and down every day? Like that'd be fun, dude. That'd be really fun. Maybe one day, who knows? Maybe one day. But also, dude, the pressure of managing money. Like think about the pressure of managing your own money or your family's money, right? If you control your family's portfolio, like managing other people's money to the tune of hundreds of millions, if not billions. And you kind of need hundreds of millions to actually make a dent. Like a 5 million portfolio is just not going to do much, right? If you're managing like real money, you need to get to at least 25 and then the hundreds of millions and then really $1 billion to even make any money off the management fees. Cause that's the whole reason why these hedge fund managers even do this. It's a lot of pressure, dude. It's a lot of freaking pressure. Like imagine it's freaking April 8th and you know, a lot of us were down 20 to 30%. Now imagine being down 20 to 30% on $2 billion. Like it's not fun, bro. It's definitely not fun. So if anyone does manage money in the future, you just got to be psychologically ready for it. But I do think anyone in the markets, like if you want to manage money, it's not a world in which you have to like graduate from Wharton or Harvard to manage money. Anyone can raise money. You have to have the connections. You have to have the work ethic. You have to be able to convince people of your track record, your differentiated thinking, all that stuff. It's not like necessarily the hardest thing in the world to raise money. You don't have to be part of some elite club to be able to manage money. I met a lot of people at the meetups that run family offices. There was this one guy in Toronto that manages like 25 million bucks and he loaded up on Palantir and Hood. So a lot of his clients are very happy, right? But managing money is not like the most exclusive thing in the world. Managing money correctly to get a return to then be able to raise your AUM is freaking difficult. And it's stressful as hell, you know, because it's other people's money. I mean, if you're down 20% or you can live with it, but if your clients are down 20%, it sucks, right? No one wants to lose other people's money. So it's definitely a little tough to be in that business, which is why these guys get so much respect if they show returns. Nancy Pelosi has not released anything because she's in Congress. So her 13Gs, 13Fs are a little bit different in terms of disclosures. I don't see anything disclosed by her. I think like within the next week, we should see what Pelosi has done. But so far, we don't have any disclosure on what Pelosi has done. At least not yet. But I think pretty soon we will get it. Well, let me show you her portfolio right now, just to update everybody, even though it's not fully updated from the disclosures. 20% is in NVIDIA, 13% is Google, 11% is Palo Alto, 10% is Broadcom, 9% is Amazon, 9% is Vistra, 9% is Tempest. Remember, she bought those calls in January. 6% is CrowdStrike, 5% is Microsoft, 5% is Apple, and then 4% is Tesla. So she has NVIDIA, Google, Palo Alto Networks, Broadcom, Amazon, Vistra, Tempest, CrowdStrike, Microsoft, Apple, and Tesla in her portfolio. And that's pretty much what we got for Pelosi. All right, that's what we got. Big day, big day with a lot of these companies. If Ross Gerber can manage money, anyone can do it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's, you know, like a lot of people can manage money. That is definitely true. Steve should be on in about 5 minutes. He said 5:15. He might be a little late, but he should be on again. He's getting out of a meeting because he actually has a job, even if you guys don't believe that he actually works for a living. But he should be on in a bit. I don't think he's seen any of these 13Gs, 13Fs, so we'll be able to get his reaction in real time around these investments. We'll see what he has to say. Let's get some coverage on United Health because that one has been taking a bit of a beating here today. So let's see what some people have to say about United Health, and then we'll keep going from there.
I think you're careful here. I think what I love about trading this stock from the long side, though, is everything I have heard is at least some reaffirmation, even if guidance is pulled. There's some sense that we're in the middle part of the 25 guide. And if we're in the middle part of the 25 guide, based upon those EPS multiples, this is, at around $26 a share. You can now do the math. We're trading yesterday. I talked about it being around 12 times. Now it's about 11 times. I think you're in a very interesting place. You start to get into the headlines from today bring this into a very different place. The business we had yesterday was something where it was, to me, starting to really just be a valuation call. You never feel like you have to jump in when that falling knife is falling. But I think this is a stock I am inclined to trade from the long side.
I think the sentiment seemed to have been an era of forgiveness for precisely the reason you outlined. It had been a monster, a historic run in terms of a stock, a heroic stock. Carter called it a godlike stock until April 17th, when it became clear that UNH was suffering something more UNH specific compared to its peers. And that's when that sort of forgiveness wore off. Yeah.
They have industry issues without question. We talked about that. They have specific company issues as well. I think we've done a good job navigating people away from this. So here's the good news, if there is any. What Tim just said, and then I'll add these three things. 3 analysts made comments today about UNH. RBC maintained a $525 price target. UBS maintained their buy. Bernstein has an almost $600 price target. All said constructive things. And UNH management today said the Wall Street Journal article was quoting deeply irresponsible. Well, for them to say that, they must have some conviction that it's deeply irresponsible. All those things in the mix, I don't think they've done a particularly good job getting in front of this. And if you go back to the March 2020 low, I think it was like 210-ish. I mean, that's where it seems headed for, despite the fact that it traded about 14 times normal volume today.
Yeah, so Guy brings up that pandemic low, and I think that's what you have to eyeball. But how do they not know if it's a criminal charge or not? Don't you think are they not opening their emails? How does that happen? How do we know? How are we talking about it, but they don't know?
Well, they said they've not been notified. So
yeah, so
you're saying there's effectively that they don't
have one.
There isn't one.
Right. So if there isn't one, then you buy the stock off of this dramatic fall based on this. But I don't think, to Tim's point, for a bounce, I don't think, to Tim's point, that you have to catch a falling knife. I think if you look at it, 15% of their membership is Medicare Advantage, 30% of their revenues is Medicare Advantage. It's only second to Humana. Right now, the stock can't get out of its own way. It's had a terrible year thus far. I think you got to wait and see, but I am looking at that level that Guy's talking about.
Or maybe this makes other players in the same space look that much better. A player like Elevance, for instance, which came out April 17th, saying we don't have those same issues as UNH.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking at UNH, I mean, a lot of this stuff isn't going to go away for them. So yeah, maybe you do want to start to look at some of these other players, but the medical utilization costs are going to continue to weigh on margins. I think more so than the headlines we saw today. The fact that they lowered guidance significantly a month ago and then just cut guidance just now, I mean, that I think is a bigger issue, that they have already had some sort of look ahead and they're really pulling back on that. So I think what that means for them moving forward, there's probably more downside to come here. So I'd probably stay away from this.
To be fair, though, they could pull the guidance just to give the new CEO some room.
No doubt.
To kitchen sink himself. I'm not saying that all is clear that they pull guidance. I mean, who knows what's going to come out when he actually gives guidance.
He's the right person, I think, without question. I mean, he was there for, 9 or 10 years, and under his leadership, they did extraordinarily well. So it's the right person to come back. But, you mentioned other companies. Our crack staff in EC put up a Humana chart over the last 6 years. That stock is lower than the 2020 lows, which is remarkable if you think about it. So if you don't think UNH has more room to downside, I just don't think you're paying attention.
All right. Well, our next guest sees more downside in store for UNH.
All right, that's what we got with UNH. That's what we got with UNH. I'm not buying the dip on that one, but for anyone who is, I don't think it's crazy. You just got to be ready to deal with the headlines of what can happen with that stock. Bay Ray is saying Howard Marks started a position in Grab. Did he? Did he actually? Let's see. That's Oak Tree Capital. That would be kind of interesting if he added Grab, dude. Did he actually add Grab? Wow. He added Grab. Yeah, he did. 10.5 million shares of Grab. We got a big name into the stock. Howard Marks manages $4 billion. He added $46 million or 1.1% of the fund into Grab. Not bad. Not bad. Some of these big guys hopping on the train. So it's not just Tiger Global. Now we got Howard Marks, Oaktree Capital Manager. We didn't look at this one. He doesn't have a lot of tech. He's not really a tech investor. There's really barely any big tech names. Yeah, dude, there's like no big tech. There's like energy companies. There's like oil and gas. There's California Resource. Dude, Grab. I mean, I wouldn't say Grab's a pure play tech company, but if you think Uber's a tech company, then I would say Grab's definitely a tech company, right? Especially with financial services. And I mean, they literally have a super app which does a ton of different things. So there's a lot of technology and R&D. 30% of their budget goes to R&D efforts. So you would definitely say there's a world in which you could understand Grab as a tech company, even if their margins are not as amazing as other tech companies. But I would say besides JD, which is a Chinese tech company, and Baidu, which is definitely a tech company in China, Grab's the only other tech company in this portfolio. At least that's what I'm looking at right here. Yeah, dude. I don't even know a lot of these names. Like what is Sun Opta Inc? I don't know what that is. I don't know what Runaway Growth Finance Corp is. I don't know what Turnium is. I don't know what Banco Marco is. I know what Baidu is. That's Chinese Google. I don't know what Smart Rent is. Like a lot of these names are just boring names that probably pay a dividend that he doesn't have to worry about too much in terms of fluctuations with the macro. And he doesn't have to pay too much attention to what's going on with the AI CapEx cycle. Like he's not involved in, like he doesn't need to worry about what the Mag 7 report because a lot of his portfolio is shielded from that. But it looks like he's betting on Southeast Asia. Now, what's also interesting is that he didn't buy Sea Limited. A lot of these guys, if they want to do an emerging markets play, they tend to go to one of the leaders in the emerging markets, which I will, as a Grab bull, say that Sea Limited is dominant more in Southeast Asia, not literally by the size of their company in comparison to Grab, but by the level of profitability and free cash flow. They've just been a better company than Grab over the past 10 years, and their stock has obviously reflected that. But it looks like he's betting on Grab as his Southeast Asian bet here right now. So that's what we got. Okay, there you go. Howard Marks. Howard Marks with Grab. Dream, thank you for the $2 super chat. Are you planning to invest in Nebius? So I liked Sam's pitch yesterday. I just rather buy NVIDIA, to be honest. I have a big NVIDIA position. I'd rather just add to that. So Nebius is cool. I don't think it's a bad stock at all. I think it's very attractive here. I do think it's run up a lot from the lows, so it would be a little bit of chasing. But it's just not the most exciting to me compared to NVIDIA. So yeah, for me, I'd rather buy NVIDIA, get more shares, be able to have more of a stake I can sell calls against versus Nebius, where I would be establishing a new position. So for me, I'm not really investing, but I don't think it's a horrible stake. And again, I think if you're bullish on data centers and semiconductors in general, a lot of those names seem to have a decent shot at more upside. So that's what we got on Howard Marks. Why does Ray Dalio have 814 positions in his fund? He does have a lot of positions, but again, Ray Dalio's funds, for those that didn't see the market open, he sold Google, NVIDIA, AppLovin, Meta, the S&P 500, and yeah, those were his top 5 sells: S&P, Google, AppLovin, Meta, and NVIDIA. And then he bought Baidu, Baba, Gold, $300 million worth of Gold, Booking, and Palo Alto Networks. He still has a bunch of Google. Like, it's not like he sold out of these positions in general, but these were the top 5 sells as a percentage of the portfolio in Q1. So there you go. That's what we've got. I will text Steve. We are waiting for you. He might be running late from his meeting, but he will join in a little bit. All right, so those were some of the big ones. So we got Ackman. Let's write this down, dude. Let's write this down. Let's write this down so we can keep track of this, and then I'll make a tweet about this later today. Okay, so we have Ackman sold some Google, converted Uber into call options in the money, 3 years. Tepper sold a bunch of China, added Meta and Google and NVIDIA. And that's pretty much what we got from there. Howard Marks added Grab is the big one, 10 million shares. Altimeter added Hood and CoreWeave. Bury sold everything, added Estee Ladar, which again, I know you guys can't handle how I pronounce it, but maybe you guys are saying it wrong. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's you. Oh, not Uber, Nike. You're right. Sorry, Nike. Converted Nike into call options. And then what else? What else did we get? We had Bury, Bill Gates sold 12% of Berkshire, and then Buffett added Domino's, Constellation Brands, and sold some Bank of America. But outside of that, nothing too crazy. Is Nubank down 12.28? Nubank after hours is 12.84. That's down about 2.24%. Nike's down a little bit. Applied Digital is up a little bit. Nvidia is basically flat after hours. CoreWeave's up a little bit. Grab is up 0.19% currently after hours. Robinhood is up about 0.2% after hours right now. And Buffett bought Pool as well, right? Yeah, Pool. What else? And then we had Dan Loeb, who bought Nvidia and a bunch of tech and other big tech. And then Tiger Global doesn't really count. They manage a lot of money, so they're not really individual. That is not like one individual running the whole thing. These were kind of the main names from what I'm looking at. Did we miss anyone here? Let's see. Anything else on Dataroma? Oh, we got Nelson Peltz. Just now. Here we go. We got Nelson Peltz. He's not a big tech guy either. He added 3% to Allstate, added a reduced 18% to Ferguson Enterprises, and reduced 0.3% to Wendy's. He manages $3.7 billion. His portfolio is Wendy's, Invesco, GE Aerospace, Solventum, Allstate, U-Haul, and GE Healthcare Technologies. A lot of these guys kind of play it really simple and just stay away from tech. Steve Cohen, do we have his fund? Steve Cohen? Do we have his? No, we don't have his yet. His is not disclosed yet. Although he was on CNBC yesterday and saying that we are going to retest the April lows, which I'm a little skeptical on us seeing that level of a low again, but who knows? It is definitely possible. Here's some coverage right here on David Tepper's fund.
David Tepper has been kind of trading in and out of Chinese tech for a bit now during this quarter in particular, which of course ended a few days before the so-called Liberation Day, but there were still significant back and forth at that point in time between China and the U.S. There was a pulling back within Appaloosa of its exposure to Chinese tech. For example, Alibaba, that stake was down 22% in the quarter. Baidu down nearly half in the quarter. JD.com down 23% in the quarter. And PDD Holdings down 18% in the quarter. These are all the holdings that Appaloosa had relative to its prior quarter. In U.S. tech, Appaloosa cut in half its stake in Microsoft, Qualcomm, and Nvidia, but slightly increased its exposure to Meta and Alphabet. It also took a new stake in Apple worth about $277 million at the end of the quarter and doubled its stake in Uber during Q1. I also have a very quick Berkshire update as we continue to look through that filing. They do have a confidential treatment requested. This is a confidential holding that they're building a stake, but haven't disclosed it yet.
Okay, so if you don't know what that means, Berkshire is able, because for some reason the SEC allows them to do this, withhold holdings from the public in order to build their position, because if they were to disclose the name, then the public would obviously be impacted by that. So the SEC allows Berkshire to do this. The last name they did this with was Chubb Limited. I thought he was doing this with PayPal last time. I was wrong. It ended up being Chubb Limited, which is an insurance company. He didn't disclose it for 7 months, and then they finally disclosed it back at the end of 2023. But it looks like they're doing that again with a new name.
Of course, this is so that they don't affect the stock price as people see that this giant investor is building a position and then kind of pile on increasing the stock price. So they do have a secret holding. We don't know what it is. We're not sure when we'll find out, but we do know there is a holding we are unaware of at this point in time, John.
Ooh, exciting. Leslie Picker, thank you.
Okay, and then this is the update on Citigroup.
John, yeah, Warren Buffett's firm filing its 13F. This is as of the end of March, this quarter. During that quarter, Berkshire Hathaway is selling down its exposure to big banks, unloading its entire billion-dollar stake in Citi and paring back B of A by more than 7% and Capital One by 4% in the quarter. Berkshire Hathaway also doubled its stake in Constellation Brands and Pool Corp and increased its exposure to Domino's, so perhaps a little bit of a consumer increase there, and Heiko as well. Its stake in T-Mobile declined by about 11% in the quarter. The firm did not, however, touch its $67 billion stake in Apple in the 3 months through March 31st. And of course, just a reminder, on May 3rd at the annual meeting, Warren Buffett did say that he would be stepping down as CEO in December to make way for Greg Abel. He will, however, continue to serve as chairman of Berkshire's board with no set timeline for how long he will serve in that role. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Interesting moves in the
Got a lot of moves to dissect, dude. We got a lot of moves to dissect. Steve said he is in traffic. It's going to be another 5 minutes, so we're going to have to wait on him. But he should be home soon, and then he will hop on. One of you guys said another person bought some Grab. Marshall Wace. Let me see if I can get their 13F. I don't think it's on this website, but they manage, I believe, a decent chunk of money. Marshall Wace, AUM. It's showing they bought 55 million shares, or they bought 23.5 million. That's a big one, 23.5 million. Let me go to Whale Wisdom and see if I can confirm this. A lot of these are going to be updated over the coming days. Let's see if we can confirm that. Another name I'm not seeing. Apple. Where's Apple, dude? No, I'm seeing like no ads to Apple at all across a lot of these funds. But we're seeing a lot of Metas, Googles, and Nvidias getting some action here. And we are seeing people reduce positions in Amazon and Microsoft. So it looks like if they're going for a position in Max 7, it's Meta, Amazon, or Google. If they're reducing, it's more so Amazon and Microsoft. But they're adding Meta, Nvidia, and Google. Okay, so I'm looking at Grab right here. Is this correct, dude? Is this correct? This is a big one. Hold on. Yeah, it looks like they added 23 million shares, dude. Marshall Wace. I've never heard of this firm before, but they now have 55 million shares. I'm going to confirm this, but this is what Whale Wisdom is saying. I'll confirm it for tomorrow's market open and see for sure. But it looks like they added a 74% increase in their stake. They have 23 million shares they added in Q1. They now have 250 million worth of Grab. And then this other company, Macquarie Group Limited, they added 5.7 million shares. They now have 10 million shares inside of Grab as well. Again, Grab's a $5 stock, so big numbers on the shares doesn't necessarily mean, you're spending big money, but still decent to see that we are getting some more funds into the name. Not bad. Not bad. All right, guys, I need to get some water and liquidate my bladder because I've been sitting here for the past 3 hours. I'm going to get some more United Healthcare coverage. Steve should be on in about 5 minutes. And then we'll be back to analyze everything else we got going on. But here is some more coverage on the risk and rewards behind UNH.
Perform still on UNH?
I do, and thank you for having me.
So walk us through what you see in the next 12 months that makes it outperform relative to others in your coverage list.
Great question. And I would say, yes, we are outperformed, but tactically, very, very cautious on this outperform, especially near term. I think the question that we need an answer to is what will stop the bleed? I think there are a lot of really good points made. Falling knife, 210. And I think right now there's very, very little that they can do to immediately stop the bleed. and stop the near-term sentiment. I think the immediate need is 2025 guidance. They pulled it right now. I don't believe investors are willing to jump in and buy the dip until we get visibility on that. So I think that's step number one. And that will at least stop the bleed and create some stability. But for now, it is a falling knife. And what is the bottom? I think right now investors are looking at pre-Affordable Care Act. So 2009, 2010, 9 times PE off of our 26 earnings. That puts us right around 228. So if you are holding, I would just caution there could be some downside to 228. So around 15%.
That's a lot, especially we are in a vacuum effectively in terms of guidance. I mean, they just reported earnings in April, and so the next earnings report is going to be sometime this summer. So for that long, we're going to live in a vacuum. And that's not to say even that Hemsley is going to come in and give a guidance that's even lower than before, because typically a new CEO will kitchen sink it. So it could be a rough entire back half of the year here for your outperform stock.
Absolutely. And I think what gives me even more caution is that they're not committing to give a 2025 guidance on their second quarter earnings call. So that puts everyone in this unknown, prolonged period of uncertainty. So you couple that with business risk as well. It's a tough combination, tough near-term setup.
Michael, that's really kind of the point, because I was, you do this every day, but my speculation was we're somewhere in the midpoint of 25, which makes us a valuation like a screamer. It seems to me, based upon where it was. So in that context, help folks understand, outside of today's story on investigation, and there's an argument, Humana, and look, you said this in your notes that there are investigations going on out there. Therefore, maybe this is just confusion around something we know is going on within the related players. But talk about the difference between how you viewed this company before April 17th and how you view it now. And really, I'm curious where you went from your price target then to now, because it's amazing where people were at 600 are now down to 250. And what they needed to do to get there.
All right, great question. So I think to level set, back in February when the stock dropped 15% on Bill Ackman, the X battle, it was different then because investors were willing to step in by the dip. But today it's different. It's fundamentally driven. And we talked about the 25 guidance revision. What gives me more caution is that a lot of it comes from Optum Health. Optum Health is their crown jewel, their value-based care, what was supposed to usher in the next decade of growth, multiple expansion, margin expansion. So to see any cracks there, I would almost prefer there to be any other issue in any other part of the business. A Change Healthcare, another cyber hack would be better. Investors would still buy the dip. But for it to be Optum Health, that makes me very cautious, and that's my focus. And you mentioned outperform. That's what I'm looking for next, because clearly the stock is down 50%. I've missed the downgrade potentially, but we're looking to do more diligence on Optum Health. And our price target has come down significantly. At one point, we're over 600 now. We're right around 350-ish.
Just listening to you, you don't sound like an analyst with an outperform rating on this stock, saying that there's no visible catalyst in sight at all. And especially when you know that, for instance, Senator Grassley sent UNH a letter back in February. So there will probably be, I would imagine, congressional investigations of some level on top of a potential DOJ investigation. You know this from just watching other stocks in similar sort of predicaments where the sentiment is so poor, the fundamentals look terrible. A hero CEO is brought back in, but the turnaround takes much, much longer, and the trust with investors take much, much longer to build back up. Absolutely.
So I think Stephen Hemsley coming back, it's a very, very big first step in the long road to building back that trust. And I am longer term still optimistic that United will be able to fix it. It's just right now we don't know what the earnings bottom is on 25. We don't know exactly how 26 will look. And the EPS range is incredibly wide. So that's why near term, very cautious. And we do highlight there are other attractive names, as you mentioned, Elevance, Alignment Health, names that have been caught up in this downturn in the past week, but are likely insulated from the pressures that United's seeing. So we think there's attractive opportunity there.
Do those stocks gain not only because their fundamentals look better relative to United Health, but also they actually gain from UNH's weakened position at this point?
I think that could definitely play into it as well from a relative competitive advantage perspective. But right now, the way I see it is that a lot of United's cost pressures may be idiosyncratic and company specific. So it's not even just Elevance and Alignment Health. It's across the board, Humana, CVS. It's just we like Elevance and Alignment near term as a tactical play.
So, Michael, when you look at it just Okay,
so that's more coverage on UNH. The guy definitely looks a bit nervous to be on TV. I will say that. Definitely is talking like he's a bit nervous. He's a senior research analyst at Bard. Maybe he's nervous not because he's on TV, but because the stock's down 50%, and they told their clients to buy it, and clients are losing money. Dude, it's a ruthless business. This business, when it comes to picking stocks, it's ruthless. It's just ruthless. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you got to be able to actually, make the right pick in order to get people to respect you. And sometimes picks just don't work out. But, when picks go down by 50%, it's just tough, bro. Because then you got a lot of your clients calling you up like, bro, why'd you tell me to buy this shit? Why didn't you tell me to sell it? And it's just like, it's the nature of the asset management business. Robinhood right here, 60.75 after hours. So again, the big moves that we had is kind of highlighted right here. I will summarize them on Twitter later and make a full post. But this is kind of the main stuff that we are looking at right now. All right, Steve's turning on his computer. He's coming in. He's turning on his computer. He should be in a second. In the meantime, we do have an update in terms of what Trump has been doing in the Middle East. Let's get that right here. And we should have Steve on in about a couple minutes.
The deals that have been secured as a part of that trip, including some big name companies that we'll all recognize. They say Boeing and GE Aerospace have secured a $14.5 billion commitment from Etihad Airways to invest in 28 American-made Boeing 787 and 777X aircraft that are powered by GE engines. They say that Emirates Global Aluminum will invest to develop a $4 billion primary aluminum smelter project in Oklahoma. They also say that ExxonMobil, Occidental Petroleum, and EOG Resources are partnering with the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company for expanded oil and natural gas production, valued at, the White House says, $60 billion. It's a whole long list of deals here. Scott, in this press release from the White House, there's some wheeling and dealing in the Middle East going on this week. The president said earlier today that he expects to fly back to Washington, D.C. tomorrow, but he also sort of laid out a hint that he might not fly to Washington, D.C. tomorrow. He might go to parts unknown. So there's some question about whether he'll go to Turkey to try to participate in some deal making there in terms of the Russia-Ukraine war. That piece, obviously, still TBD. Scott, back over to you.
And just since you went there, and we'll end there, the idea that the president would go, but Putin would not. That seems to be where we are at this moment.
It's a possibility, and we'll have to wait and see what the president decides to do. I mean, a lot of foreign policy experts in Washington say, the U.S. should not reward Putin with or should not reward Russia with a meeting if Putin's not there. That indicates a lack of seriousness on the part of Russia. So we'll see what the president does. Zelensky has arrived in Turkey. And he looks like he's willing to hold meetings. The question is whether any of this can accomplish anything, given that the strategic goals that the Russians have are not met. And the strategic goal for the Ukrainians is to push the Russians out of all parts of Ukraine, right? Those two objectives are just incompatible. And how you split that and come up with some peace resolution is a real quandary.
All right, folks, that's the update on what's going on in the Middle East. Let's bring him on to the show, the man that you have all been waiting for the past 1.5 hours, actually almost 2 hours, Mr. Steven Fiorillo. You're muted, Steve.
You muted me.
I did not mute you. You muted yourself.
I apologize. I got home and I got stuck talking to two shareholders on my way to the elevator.
Shareholders of what?
The building.
Oh. Well, you're the president, so.
Yeah. And, when you're trying to rush, people want to talk to you about stuff. It's not good.
Well, you don't have to apologize at all, but you are here, and literally, you can see the chat. I know you see the chat.
Dude, I'm not looking at the chat because I don't want to start laughing, but I'm late like Tanner.
Oh, you're late. Yeah, he's rubbing off on you too much when you come onto the show.
No bueno.
No bueno. Okay,
maybe I could rub off on these SoFi crazies. How about that?
Okay, let's not go there. Let's not. I have stayed. Arnie tweeted a meme about SoFi today. Data-driven investing tagged me in something. I've been staying out of it. I've decided I don't want to stir the pot on Twitter when it comes to SoFi and Hood anymore. I just want to stay out of it. I don't care anymore. But
yeah, I mean, I'll stir the pot. Not a tech company.
Yeah, I'm done, dude. I'm done having this debate. Like it's just stupid.
It's not a debate. I mean, they should label their segments of revenue differently then. I mean, I don't know.
All right. Well, boy, do I have some news for you. You probably have not kept up with the 13Fs and 13Gs.
Does it? But just riddle me this. Does it not say technology segment?
You know, I agree with you.
I'm not asking if you agree. I'm just asking you a simple question. It's yes, no, no opinion. Does it say technology segment in the financials and in the presentation deck?
Yeah, technology is one part of the business.
So when I see technology segment and they have revenue and contribution profit from there, that means that the technology segment generates what they are saying it generates. Like there's nothing to debate. Like people trying to debate that are crazy. Like it's that SoFi is the one saying that, not me. I'm regurgitating what SoFi is saying. Like that's all there is to it.
You're not wrong.
And it's funny. People are like, I hope it goes to 15 so Steve gets called out of his shares. Like people forget I'm still bullish on the company. I'm just being objective.
Yeah, the toxicity of certain parts of the community has got to the point where people are literally tweeting about wanting Steve's calls to get assigned. I'm like, it's just weird, dude. At this point,
it's wild. So no, I have no idea what news happened today. I was extremely busy.
All right, so this will be a fun one. I'm going to list to you what the super investors on Wall Street did, and you can
know
give
what?
me.
Somebody texted me something that Ackman did. If that's one of the things.
Well, he's one of many things that happened today, but I will give you the updates, and then you give me your reaction. Before we get into that, though, in general, Nvidia 134 macros being decent. Your current thoughts on just the state of the markets right now?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I got to do today in between meetings was roll my cover calls. So I texted you where I'm at. I'm at 150, I think August 16th or something like that.
It's not bad.
Before their Q2 earnings.
Right. Not bad at all.
So.
Okay. All right, here you go. I'm going to say what happened, and then you give me your reaction. So here we go. Let's start off with Buffett. Okay. Main two things he did: added to Domino's, Constellation Brands, which is alcohol, Pool Corp, sold some Bank of America, and kept his entire Apple position.
As a New Yorker, it hurts my heart that this guy is investing in Domino's.
I would agree, even as a New Jerseyan, because Domino's sucks. I would agree with that.
Because it is just, I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that.
It's a pizza and beer. What is your reaction to pizza and beer? Was the big.
Well, this goes back to what I said, and everybody took it as I was disrespecting Buffett because I wouldn't want to follow his stock investments right now. I would rather follow Chris Camillo than Buffett at this point. Nobody's going to recreate what Buffett did. The guy is a legend, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. But everybody needs to remember that he started when the markets were forming. I mean, he bought Coca-Cola at such a low price. I mean, think about it. He got to invest in Coca-Cola in the 50s or 60s. He got to invest in a lot of these companies that defined industries, that built the supply chain, that built business when they were nothing or very small. You're never going to have that opportunity again in the markets because we're in a much different place. You're never going to be able to compound those types of dividends the way that he did. Even buying Coca-Cola now, you won't be able to. So you'll never recreate it, but buying Domino's over Amazon, like, come on, what are we doing? buying Domino's over Nvidia or Meta. I'm not. No, I don't get it.
I don't disagree with you. Obviously, we knew he wouldn't like invest in these companies because that's not how Berkshire invests. But it is just like
go finish buying Occidental Petroleum while oil is low, and expand Berkshire Energy. Like Domino's doesn't make sense.
They added a little bit to Oxy, 0.39%. But I agree. Here's the thing. I don't have this chart saved. I'm going to try to show it tomorrow. But without Apple, they don't beat the S&P over the past 10 years. So anyone who says you guys just don't understand Berkshire's investment style.
No, I understand Berkshire pretty well.
I don't know how Berkshire survives over the next century by beating the S&P without some technology. And I don't know if they can just rely on Apple at this point. So
it's going to be hard. I mean, what they have going for them is a massive war chest. They're generating so much money in interest and dividends a quarter. The insurance business, they're the biggest. They get a negative carry. It's incredible. But from a stock portfolio perspective, if you're not in tech, you're not beating the S&P. Because if tech is the thing that drives the S&P higher, then you're going to have a hard time beating the S&P, because we know the S&P can have 12, 13, 14% years when tech is on fire. Maybe even higher. Look at how much of SPY is tech. I feel like it's, I don't want to say the number. I'm just going to bring it up.
It's got to be close to 15, 20%, I would say.
Technology's 33%. A third of the S&P is tech. So without tech exposure, it's going to be very hard to beat the S&P.
Okay, so last thing on Berkshire, which I told everyone you would be able to give a good answer to because we talked about this a year and a half ago. They added 2% to Sirius, 120 million shares. Why do you think they're adding to this thing?
I haven't looked at the numbers in at least a quarter or two. I mean, Sirius looked undervalued. It was doing a lot of free cash flow for the valuation. I think they have a lot of satellites in orbit. It could be a play on that. Could be a play on, I mean, he doesn't buy things for them to get acquired, but it's hard to believe that Spotify doesn't want to take Sirius out.
But do you think that so SiriusXM, for those that don't know, is radio, Howard Stern. Like, do you think they're bullish on radio, or they're more bullish on the satellite technology being bought out?
I think it's a combination. I think that Sirius has a unique footprint with satellites. And I also think that they have a lot of the major sports brands. They have a lot of things on there that make it unique. And yeah, I remember, people spend a lot of time in the car. Sirius is a main driver that gets people through the day. And even though you can say, yeah, you could just put your phone on and listen to Spotify or YouTube, there's a lot of programs and channels on Sirius people like. You got CNBC on there, you got Bloomberg on there, you got NASCAR, MLB, and there's a lot of things on there. So I don't think Sirius is going away. If it was going away, it would have got destroyed by everything we just named. YouTube, Spotify, MP3s, Audible. It's still surviving and generating good free cash flow. Yeah,
they have
over 20 years. Exactly.
They have over 35 million subscribers on Sirius.
Yeah, and 35 million subscribers can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, they find value in the product to pay a monthly fee. And it's one of those things. If it costs you $7 a month and entertains you while you're driving, are you getting rid of it?
Yeah. No, it's fair. It's just the stock really hasn't done much, so it's definitely confusing. Yeah, it's confusing why he's so heavy in this. Okay, cool. SiriusXM. So Ackman basically only did one thing. He sold a little bit of Google. That's whatever.
I thought he exited Nike.
No. So I thought he did too. Everyone thought he did.
Why did at least 3 people text me that Ackman was out of Nike?
He converted his Nike into in-the-money call options.
Okay, so he's still in Nike.
Correct. Okay. Correct. Any thoughts, though, on him ditching the stock and going to the options? I think it's a nothing burger. I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either.
Yeah. I also think it means he's even more bullish because he wants to put an expiration on his options, meaning he thinks, the stock should move soon.
So what was the other big news?
Okay, so that was Ackman. Then we had Burry. Okay, so Mr. 2008 financial crisis. What do you think he did? He owned a ton of China. What do you think he did? If you had to guess.
I have no idea. Would he buy Amazon?
Okay, so
did he buy Amazon? I didn't look. I have no idea.
He sold everything.
Okay.
And he bought one stock. What do you think is the one stock? If you had to guess.
So, well, I guess I'm wrong that it's not Amazon.
It's not Amazon.
Okay. I don't know.
And he also, guys, I'm seeing this data right now. He also bought a crap ton of puts. So let me tell you the puts before I tell you the stock he bought. He bought 900,000 shares worth of puts on NVIDIA. He bought 200,000 shares worth of puts on Alibaba, Pinduoduo, and JD. He bought 200,000 shares worth of puts on TCOM, 100,000 shares worth of puts on Baidu. So he's now going bearish China after being bullish
bearish China. And he thinks the China play is going to impact NVIDIA.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. And he bought 200,000 shares of Estée Lauder.
Say that again. What did you just call them?
200,000 shares of Estée Lauder.
I don't know what that company is.
I mean, it's the makeup company, Estée Lauder.
Estée Lauder?
That's not how you say it.
That is 100% how you say it.
That is not how you say it, dude.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you've been to France or anything, but like it's Lauder.
I'm not in France. I'm in the USA.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm so tired of having to correct people on how to say these words.
I am in the good old US of A. And in the US of A, it is called something else.
I mean, look, you guys in the chat and Steve, you can pronounce it however you want. I respectfully disagree.
I have never in my life heard anybody pronounce it the way you just did. Ever.
Wait, so you really called it, you call it Lauder? That's what you call it?
I don't call it anything because I don't talk about the company, but it's called Estée Lauder.
I think it's Lauder, dude. I think you're wrong here.
Like, what are you trying to say? Lennar?
No, I'm
No, that's a building company, right?
I know.
Okay.
Regardless, sold everything and went long on makeup. I mean, how do you?
I don't hate makeup. Obviously, I thought Elf was a good idea.
But
where is Elf since I wrote that article?
It's actually up a lot.
Oh, look at that. It's up. You got to be kidding me.
Should have bought it. Should have freaking bought it.
I wrote that article on April 20th and it's up 51%.
Yeah, dude, they got a China bump after the.
What is wrong? I am the worst investor in the world.
No, you're a great investor. You love picking names, but then you just don't buy them. That's the
I am the worst investor in the world. I swear to God. The worst.
For those that don't know, last year around this time, the exact same thing happened with DocuSign. He called me. He was like, "Yo, let's buy DocuSign." I was like, "What the? We're not gonna buy some freaking e-signature company." That shit went up 70%. Like it was ridiculous. But okay, so long makeup.
I just need to give all my money to somebody, and I can just tell them what to buy, and they just freaking do it. Is what I need to do.
Exactly. They'll pull the trigger. So, do you think he thinks a recession is coming and makeup's the answer?
Recession is not a catalyst for makeup. You got summertime going. That's one.
What's the thesis on summertime for makeup?
Well, people are going out more. There's just, it's not just makeup. And now, look, I don't know what they make, what lines and stuff, but, I'm sure that there are things for beach, stuff like that in their line. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but makeup is not a recession thing. It's actually recession proof because people are always using makeup, and it's not just makeup, it's skincare also. And you got to think that the younger generation, even the access to information has made skin health so much more mainstream that I think those companies are going to do well. That's why I thought Elf was a good one.
Do you think Buffett with pizza and beer and Burry with makeup, both of them are just like super bearish, and that's why they're going this route?
And pizza and beer is a great combo. I just don't think Domino's and beer is a good combo.
Do you really don't like Domino's?
I live in the pizza capital of the world. It's very hard for me to take Domino's seriously.
I think between Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Papa John's is obviously the best.
I've actually never had Papa John's.
Really?
What was the other one you said?
Pizza Hut.
I've had Pizza Hut before, but not for like 30 years.
Yeah, in New York, you can't be ordering that type of pizza.
I wanted to try the stuffed crust pizza when it came out, but I was also like freaking 8.
Okay, so that's what we had with Buffett, with Burry. Altimeter, Brad Gerstner. You want to know what he did?
I would love to know what he did.
All right.
Somebody that understands technology.
He understands technology. Let me pull this up right here.
Long Meta, long NVIDIA.
So that is already in his portfolio, but in terms of new ads, he added 5 names. I want to give you 5 guesses on if you can get any of the names. 5 new names. Just guess 5.
I don't even know what was in his portfolio.
Just guess 5 names. Just any 5.
Amazon.
No.
Apple.
Nope.
Alphabet.
Nope.
Trying to go all A's here.
Got 2 more.
Broadcom.
Nope. You're close though. You got. I'll give you the hint. There is an A. Your last guess. There is an A.
I don't know. Just tell me.
All right. He added ARM, 175,000 shares. He added Baba, 540,000. CoreWeave, 3 million, and then Robinhood, 2.8 million, and then Sale, 250,000.
Okay. But hey, SoFi is a tech company. Over
Dude, he added $120 million.
Yeah, one of the biggest tech investors buying Hood.
I mean, that's pretty. You and me both love Gerstner. I love this guy.
I love Gerstner. I think the guy is great.
I love Gerstner. I love how he talks about tech. He's liked several of my tweets before, specifically about Robinhood. There you go. He's in the name. So Robinhood, ARM, and Baba and CoreWeave were kind of the big ones for Brad Gerstner. Okay, David Tepper. So I'll just show you. He had a lot of moves. I'll show you what he did. In general, he went long tech, and he got rid of a decent chunk of China. So Tepper right here, this is his portfolio. Remember, he was the guy who said buy everything when it came to China?
Yeah.
He sold 22% of Baba, 18% of Pinduoduo, sold some Amazon, sold 23% of JD, sold his KWeb, his FXI. He added NVIDIA, which is really nice. Or sorry, he reduced 55% of NVIDIA. There was another guy who added a lot of NVIDIA. He added a little bit of UNH, reduced some Oracle. He basically sold big tech except Meta and Google, added 12 and 6% to them. And then he reduced his China.
We got to remember to go to that. I am looking at the chat right now. Somebody asked my top 5 pizzerias, so we can do that later.
Okay, we'll do top 5. We'll do that later. Do you think Tepper is making the right move right here, de-risking out of China? Does that make sense?
I mean, I'm not in China anymore.
When were you? Oh yeah, you had Baba, right?
So I still have emerging market ETF that's very heavy China, but other than that, I may have Baba in a smaller account, but I don't have my main position of Baba anymore. I got out of it, I think 145.
Okay, so you're not in China anymore either.
Oh, he added Energy Transfer. Look at that.
He did. I thought of you as soon as I saw
that. I like that. Good move. Good move.
Yeah, that was the other main move. Besides that, Bill Gates kept everything. He sold 12% of his Berkshire, so nothing too crazy there. And then Dan Loeb, you know that guy as well. He added a lot of NVIDIA.
I think that's going to prove to be a good play.
He bought for the first time 1.4 million shares of NVIDIA.
I think it's going to prove to be a good play.
He added a decent chunk of tech, to be honest. He also bought Shark Ninja and Pinterest and AT&T.
AT&T is going to be a $30 stock sooner than later.
Where is it right now? 25?
27 or so?
Wow, it's up 3% today. Oh, AT&T. Oh, that one's up. Those were the main moves. So they made all these transactions in Q1. Q1 is when they did this. So now here's the thing. Look, they could have done this in February. It's being reported now. They could have bought back in or sold any of these names in the past month. So it's not like you can really look at this and be like, all right, I know exactly what's happening. But it gives you a little bit of a gauge of what some of these people are engaging in.
Yeah, it's always interesting to say.
So that's some of the main moves in terms of what these guys did. Okay, so Steve, a lot of people have some questions on stocks. They've been wanting to get your thoughts on them. Target in particular, I'm going to link your article right here that you wrote. In a nutshell, what's the thesis on this one? And do you have this? Are you buying it? And are you excited for this name at all?
I actually started a position this week on it. Yeah, I think it's beaten up a lot. I mean, it's down 64% or so from 2021. Dividend yields 4.7%. It's a dividend king, more than 5 decades of dividend growth, I believe. You know, it trades at a low multiple. It's trading at less than 11 times earnings. And I think they're making a lot of good moves in their tech stack and upgrading inventory management program. They're getting more into private label stuff. They're taking a page out of Costco's book. They're looking to bring several hundred brands to market over the next couple of years in private label. So I think they're going to try to create their own Kirkland style business. They're opening more stores. They're remodeling. And so many people love going to Target. I think the consolidation phase is done. I mean, there's a lot of big box stores that are no longer in business. But I don't see Walmart, Costco, and Target going under. I think there's always going to be a need for them. Target serves a different niche than Walmart, and it's got better margins. They're buying back shares. I mean, they've bought back shares every year over the past decade. They've repurchased, how many shares have they repurchased? Oh, no, I thought I put that in the, 29% of its shares over the past decade. I mean, low share count. It's interesting. They have a good capital allocation program back to shareholders. The dividend growth is interesting. So I don't know. I could see this is one of the things I think about. If Target goes to 150, does anybody think that that's weird? I don't think so. It's still nowhere near the 240 it was at or 250 it was at. So it's interesting. And when I look at the margins, way better margins than Costco. Their gross profit margins 28% versus Costco's 13%. I mean, cash from operation margin, Target's generating 7% cash from operations. Costco's 4.5%. Trades at less than 10 times forward earnings. I mean, it's interesting. I actually have to take this. Give me 1 sec. It is my Pokemon dealer. Hello? May I get back to you? Yeah. Okay.
There's no way.
Am I getting one? You're the best. I have no idea. It's some limited edition thing.
I didn't mute this just because I want to hear if this is actually.
Just tell me what I owe you and I'll Venmo you to you or PayPal. Oh, you're the best. I'll call you back. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. All right, thank you. All right, so a new set. I got to update that some specialty set was dropping tomorrow. And I texted my guy and I said, I need one. So he put the word out to the shop he does business with, and there's going to be one on the side for me.
I was going to mute you, but I wanted to hear if
I specifically did not mute it so you could hear it. I didn't realize you were going to keep it live, though.
Well, I'm happy I did because no one would have believed it. No one would have Next time we need to hear you call the dairy dealer live. That's what we really need to
But
do.
I don't call the dairy guy, I text the dairy guy.
Well, we need to hear you call him.
I mean, maybe I can set up a stream of me going on a Sunday.
That would be A+ quality content.
Okay. So where were we? Yeah, I just think Target's good. I mean, look, it peaked at 264. It's under 100. If it goes to 150, I don't think anybody thinks that's nuts. Good free cash flow. I mean, $4.5 billion in free cash flow. It's hard to think this is going lower. I'm certainly bottom fishing on this, but I'm also getting paid 4.5% on the dividend yield with more than 5 decades of dividend growth. So I think it's something worth bottom fishing on.
Okay. That makes sense.
These comments are so ridiculous.
Well, it's because you freaking called up a Pokemon dealer.
I didn't. No, you heard it. I got a phone call. I didn't call anybody.
I just, not a lot of people have a Pokemon guy, is all I'm trying to say.
Well, with the way the Pokemon market is, you got to have a guy.
Of course, the way the Pokemon market is compounding annually every year. I mean, like, it is outperforming the S&P. You're right.
You cannot get product.
That is correct.
This shop that my buddy does business with got 4 of these boxes. He owns a legit card shop, and he got 4 of these boxes. Like,
if anyone looks up the Pokemon channels, there is a massive YouTube community.
Go to Alex's channel. Alex is awesome.
What's his name again?
Nostalgianomics.
Nostalgianomics. I'll link it right here. Anyone can check it out. But he's
we
live
had
all
a
day.
bit on it. It's his show. He's awesome.
Yeah, I went on the show a while ago. This guy has 30,000 subscribers basically, and he's doing videos every day about Pokemon. Like, there's a big community.
He's running a ridiculous rip and ship business. I can't say anything else about it.
I've heard the numbers, and he's, there's a big market for this.
You haven't heard the new numbers. It's insane.
I told everyone I had a friend he was 22 years old, and he asked me a year ago. He had a full-time S&T offer, sales and trading at Bloomberg, and he was like, Amit, should I go to Bloomberg or should I keep live streaming on Whatnot, which is the main platform for selling a lot of this stuff, and expand my Pokemon business? And I was like, dude, like, Bloomberg's fucking boring. Like, go do your own thing. And now this guy's doing like $2 million a year. He's 22 years old. On Pokemon with like 30% margins with his cousin and his brother. Like,
yeah, and you put me in contact with him, and I talked to him. I mean,
you did talk to him. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, yeah, he's legit doing crazy business.
Dude, we got to do a pack opening with you. That would be fun.
So the guy who just called me, okay, he wants me to start a rip and ship baseball card thing on YouTube.
I'm telling you, people would listen.
And I was like, I don't think it's like going to work. He's like, listen. He's like, we'll go halves on it. And he's like, just start it. I'm like, it's not about the money. I'm like, I just don't think that it's going to turn into it. He's like, just do it. So I'm considering next baseball season having a full 2-night-a-week rip and ship stream on baseball and doing like a whole service thing where for X amount of month, you get a jumbo pack, a retail pack, a hobby pack, and some other stuff, and have bounties in there. So we're working on something fun for baseball.
People would love it, bro.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
I think people would want to see it. UNH, are you buying this dip, Steve?
I mean, I love bottom fishing like the next person, but I am so shook of this. This could go back to 370 tomorrow, or this could be a 180. I mean, this is it overdone? I got no idea. I spoke to somebody, they said, stay away from this. But I don't know if they really know much about what's going on. They know more than me, though, because I really don't follow UNH. but yeah, I don't know.
So you're not a fan of it.
I mean, zoom out. Do a 5-year chart on them or a 10-year chart. I mean, even though it's down sharply, it's still up a lot.
That's disgusting, though, bro. That's kind of crazy.
No, but how far out did you go?
5 years. It erased 5 years of gains.
All right, go do 10 years.
Look, in 2020, it was $270. If I do max, max, it's obviously up all time, but you know.
I mean, if there's really nothing wrong, this is going to be one of the ultimate buys. But I think they're down a lot because of the
investigation.
Not just that, the business that they're running.
The PBM,
Yeah, PBM.
Yeah.
I don't know. This isn't something I would take a chance on.
I think it's a good dip, but I don't want to take the chance on it. If it goes up, bless the people that bought it.
Yeah, there's other opportunities with what RFK is doing. This isn't something I want to bottom fish on. Not yet, at least. You get under 200, it gets interesting for me.
Yeah. Those were the big moves, dude. Burry selling everything, Buffett going pizza and beer, and
SoFi moving below 14.
Okay, so I was on the phone with Steve last night, and I saw this. I couldn't believe this was said. I don't know if you guys saw this last night, but apparently Anthony Noto at that JP Morgan conference, he said this: I want to get 50 million members over the next 5 years. They're at 11 million members right now. They would have to grow 37.5% a year in just members.
Now, in all fairness, it also says 15 million members in the transcript in a different section.
Okay, so this is what I was confused about, right? So I'm curious what you guys say. I heard 15 when I was listening to it, but Tevis put out this big thread and he said 50. So if it is 50, I think that's just, I don't know if they can get to 50 million members. That's
so when I search for 15 in the transcript in the very last paragraph, it says, I'd love to be at the point where we have 15 million members. And then when I search 50 in a different section, it says, I really want to get to 50 million members over the next 5 years. So people are hearing two separate things. Now, this was two separate times. So, I mean, one was in the closing remarks, one was toward the end. So
I think I heard this last night and I was like, I think it's 15. Like, because 15 is doable. 50 is a bit aggressive.
Yeah, I think 15 makes a lot more sense than 50. Look, I would love for them to get to 50, but you're 4Xing your members in 4 years.
It's
5
not
years.
impossible,
I mean, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, does 15 really make sense? They're at 11 and they grew by over 800,000 members last quarter.
Wait, so 4 years is 16 quarters divided by 4 million. That means they would have to average.
So you got 18 quarters until 2030 because you got 2 more quarters for this.
Yeah, that's do it. 4 million divided by 18 is 222,000 per.
It's got to be 50, Amit. Because that 15 wouldn't make sense.
15 is a little too easy, actually, when you think about it.
15 is too low because they did over 800,000 members last quarter.
Yeah, 15 would imply 200,000 a quarter for 5 years, which makes no sense.
They haven't done that in years. It hasn't been that low.
So hold on. If I just take their average right now, which is 800,000, multiplied by, you said 18 quarters.
Oh, that's not their average. That's what they did last quarter.
Well, let's assume it doesn't deaccelerate. So I'm going to use 800,000.
Right, let's just say 1 million a quarter. That's another 18 million from where we are. That's 29 million by 2030 if they stay at 1 million. They could hit 50 million if they keep accelerating.
So he wants, if you assume the current member growth, it would be 30 million. If he accelerates, he needs another 20 million, which means you need, a 37% CAGR per year.
Could happen. Not going to say it can happen.
Yeah, to me, I think it kind of doesn't matter if they get that many members. My question is the activity of the members, right? Like, are they actually using the product more meaningfully? So,
We'll see.
Because you and I'm a member. Chris is a member. We were talking about it last night. Me and Chris don't use it. We're part of the 11 million, but like, are we really part of the 11 million? Right. So to me, it's more about activity. But yeah, in terms of your covered calls, I mean, you're doing well so far. It's below 15. So
yeah, I'm really not that worried.
Yeah, down about 3.2% on the day. I think SoFi is waiting for rate cuts. Okay, so we had PPI data today, Steve. We had the sharpest decline in PPI since April of 2020.
What did Powell say?
Powell said literally nothing. Like, actually said nothing.
Okay.
No, when I mean he said nothing, I mean he literally, I'll give you the exact quote, but he didn't say anything crazy. But given this PPI data, it just looks more and more likely that it's time for Powell to cut rates. This is what Powell said. Higher real interest rates might reflect the possibility that inflation could be more volatile going forward than in the inter-crisis period of 2010. It's a little hawkish. And then he says,
ridiculous statement.
And then he says, we may be entering a period of more frequent and potentially more persistent supply shocks, a difficult challenge for the economy and for central banks.
Let's see what oil does. If oil stays between 55 and 65, I mean, they may not cut in June, but I think it's very hard that they don't cut in July. I don't think that they wait till September.
You think they cut before September?
I think they have to. Microsoft just announced a 2% layoff. I mean, you don't want unemployment going up the way it's going to go up.
If they cut by July, I think SoFi has a real shot of getting to 20 by the end of the year. If they don't, I think it's going to be tougher to see a lot of these rate sensitive companies benefit.
Well, it's not just that. You don't want companies having to refi debt at higher levels and potentially lay people off to meet the same earnings potential, whether you're a private or a public company. You don't want unemployment going up, and you don't want a business environment that's restrictive. I never understood this. They have a dual mandate. One side is not more important than the other, according to them. It's a dual mandate. They try to keep the seesaw even. Unfortunately, in the real world, it's better for everybody to pony up and pay $103 instead of $102 from goods from last year if that means more Americans have jobs, especially higher paying jobs. Like, you want everybody in the country to thrive. You want a vibrant economy. And when unemployment is going up like this, I get worried that they're going to just sit there and wait and make things worse. The amount of automation coming out, you need lower cost of capital to spur entrepreneurship and for businesses to expand.
Walmart said they're hiking prices going into the summer. So we will see some more inflation there. I think it'll be offset by some deflation with people not, buying as much.
Well, look, that when people don't have work, they tend to spend less money. That's another thing that's a problem.
Well, the thing is, though, non-farm payrolls have been good. Jobless claims today were in line. He's looking at the labor market, and I'm not defending him, but in his mind, he doesn't think there's a reason to cut for the labor market. But the point is, you need to cut before there's a reason, right?
Yeah. And think about it. How many people just got laid off from Microsoft?
5,000 people, yeah.
Okay, those are not $30,000 jobs.
Yeah.
Those are jobs where I would say the majority of them are probably six-figure jobs that are getting laid off. We know Meta laid off a lot of people. They probably are going to still lay off people. We're going to see tech evolve. We know that all these companies are talking about replacing people with AI coders. And we know that once automation happens with driving, the whole transport industry is going to go through a revolution. They need to get ahead of all of this.
What do you think about ChatGPT being used more than Wikipedia now?
I mean, I didn't even realize people actually use Wikipedia.
It's still pretty popular, apparently.
Okay.
I think this is so bullish NVIDIA.
So bullish NVIDIA.
Wikipedia. Okay, guess how many website visits Wikipedia gets a month? Just guess.
I have no idea.
3.72 billion. That's the Pokemon guy?
No, it's my wife.
Oh, okay. 3.72 billion. So ChatGPT, I believe, is at 4 point something.
How long are you streaming for?
Or sorry, 5.1 billion on freaking ChatGPT.
How long are you streaming for?
I mean, I'm gonna probably end it after we're done.
All
Oh, you
right.
gotta go?
I gotta go down to the garage.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good. We'll have you on tomorrow on the market close anyway.
So real quick, top 5 pizzerias.
Go ahead.
Mine, John's on Bleeker's #1, hands down. It's incredible. #2, a lot of people would put his #1 with DeFara's, but I like John's on Bleecker better than DeFara's. I have not been to Lucali, but I am going there this summer. It's tough. I like Joe's. Joe's is just the quintessential New York slice. I really like Joe's a lot. I really do. It's really freaking good. And I will say, I don't think it's better than John's. A lot of people would think it, but I think freaking Sally's in New Haven is incredible.
That's the one that Portnoy.
And I like Sally's better than Pepe's. So we used to stop there heading up to Mohegan. And I don't know. The #5 is hard. I mean, it's probably I'm gonna go Nick's. I really like Nick's, so that would probably be my 5th. It's a tie between Nick's and Umberto's. But
all right, there you go. I will try all of these when I move out to Jersey City as I spend more time in New York. So
all right, well, I will see you later. I have to go help my wife, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
all right, Steve Seeking Alpha article on Target. Put that in the chat, Steve. We will talk to you tomorrow as well.
All right, I'll have some Pokemon news for you.
Oh, we're looking forward to it.
Later.
All right, later. All right, folks. Busy day, dude. Lots and lots and lots of disclosures from 13Fs and 13Gs. I will have a summary post on all of it later today on X. We got some big boys coming into the Grab universe, which is nice to see. We got some hoodie with altimeter. And we'll recap all this tomorrow on the market open as well. Tomorrow's Friday, dude. This week went by very fast. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow we will be ending out the week. And then we got one more month left of Q2. And then we got earnings season starting towards the end of June into July. And then we enter into fall for 2025. It is a year that is moving way faster than it seems, but yeah, getting to the second half of 2025 now. Tomorrow is OPEX for the markets. That is correct. That means there's going to be a lot of option expirations. That's what OPEX is. So that is one thing everyone should keep on their mind. It's not quad witching day though, right? I don't think tomorrow's quad witching. I could be wrong. That's when we have a lot of days of expiration. Yeah, tomorrow the next quad witching is June 20th. We do have a lot of options expiring tomorrow, but the next big one is June 20th. So that could also create some more volatility. All right, cool. Well, that is it for me. I will have the daily recap out in a couple of hours. First of all, thank you everybody for showing love on the daily recap. I get that out every day at around 9 to 9:30. Appreciate that people have been enjoying it. I really appreciate doing it every single day. We recap what's going on in the markets for about 20 minutes. And for those that can't be part of the streams, or for those that are part of the streams but just want a more synthesized version of what happens every single day, seems like you guys are enjoying it. And I enjoy doing it because it kind of keeps me on top of my game in terms of summarizing everything in a short period of time and getting all that out there. So we'll have that episode out in a couple hours as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Big day for the markets. A lot of stuff after hours that we got. I'll be recapping all of it on the daily recap and tomorrow on the market open. And then we will get into the end of the week tomorrow as we end out. This is what, the 7th week of trading for Q2. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Oh, wait, real quick. Hold on. I forgot to show you guys this. I forgot to show you guys this. I'm going short Google. Officially. This is the reason I think Google's a liar. I think Google's a liar. This is how Google pronounces Estee Lauder.
Estee Lauder.
I'm going short. I can't have AI lie to me and hallucinate the way it does. So that's my short thesis. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. I'll see you guys on the Market Open tomorrow.